Good morning, traders out there. I know you're seeing it right now. The day is starting off, and it is no longer blue lights in the back. It is really quickly a red light show. Red light, red light. Market in turmoil. You will see it on CNBC in a second. We'll see what happens, guys. Inflation coming in hot. Hot this morning. We'll take a look at what's going on in the markets right now. But of course, you guys see it. Inflation coming in this morning. It wasn't that far off. Let's get the readings in here for you guys and give you guys, of course, CPI month over month coming in at 0.5 versus a 0.3 estimate. I'll share my screen right now so you guys can see the market action as this is coming down. And we are going down fast here. And hey, that's just how quickly it can be, guys. You always got to keep your head on a swivel exactly when numbers are coming out. And here you guys have it. CPI for January at 0.5 versus a 0.3 and prior being 0.4. This is why it's hard to swing trade into a CPI report, as there you guys see it, a little bit of a spike in the CPI for the month over month reading. Let's go to the year over year reading, which is also a main focus here. And you guys can see it there. Core CPI for year over year also jumping. Of course, core CPI excludes energy. And this is something that I'm going to look into, guys, because one thing is I love looking into the CPI report and actually diving deep into it. So stay tuned, guys. We got a lot to look into. I'm going to be looking into the data, of course, as I speak it to you guys. But what I need to do is once Michael comes on, I can actually go a little bit deeper into the charts, actually see where this is actually coming from, right? I think that's the most important thing. So I'll go ahead and I'll keep pulling here to give you guys what's happening out there. But you guys do me the favor, smash the like. Let's keep going and see what else we have today, guys. Definitely the market pulling back there on the VXX, getting a nice jump there towards 4450s. I might be playing this right now in the pre-market. We'll see what happens. Will the dip get bought? Right now, the Qs are down there to 522. Big drop on the first action. Of course, we're already getting some type of bounce, but let's see if the bounce can even hold here, or will we see some continued downside action? One thing's for certain, though, you got to continue to watch to see what's happening here. I think it's important to look at this graph, right? And you guys can pull this up right from the BLS here. I'll give you guys the link here. And if you're not using this, well, then you're doing it wrong, right, guys? Actually get the information. Don't worry about what the media is telling you and go take a look at the chart, right? So this tells us the adjustment, right? And what has changed, right? I think this is so important to look at. What you're looking here is to see what kind of got the spike from December to January, right? And what is coming down. Well, what's coming down, I see apparel definitely taking some hits there, but oil and energy and all items less food and energy getting a little bit of a spike. That's where we saw a little bit of that spike. Looking into here, energy not looking too bad. The fuel oil, though, look at the spike in fuel. That definitely will cost you some, right? When you go from a 2.1 to a 6.2, that's definitely causing some action there to get the spike there. We'll see what happens, what else is going on here. And you can see food at home and food getting a spike after this had been in 0.2s and 0.3s, now a 0.4 and 0.5. This is not good. What is this showing? More food inflation. Another thing that's showing here is the shelter not going away. We were trying to take a look to see if shelter would start to slow down. Of course, this is kind of like your rent and payments and things like that. Definitely, that's not helping things. The index for the food increased 0.4% in January. The food at home index rose 0.5% over the month, as 4 of the 6 major grocery store food groups index increased. So the index for meat, poultry, fish, eggs rose 1.9% over the month, as the index also for eggs increased 15.2%. So that's where we're seeing really the action come from. It's for the food price. And if you've lately been at the grocery store, I'm sure you notice it, because you take 2 or 3 items and you look back at the price and you're like, $100. Well, yeah, that's exactly how it goes right now in an inflationary environment. And for a little while there, we were looking good and not looking so good again now on this. Now the real question comes in, guys. And I saw the headline this morning, Trump putting out there that with the tariffs, we should also be cutting rates. This right here puts that to a halt and tells everybody right now, well, guess what? The Fed cannot cut with this situation going on. If inflation's going up, and we got the scenarios just yesterday, I can't wait to hear Jerome Powell today. He could actually knock us further down today, as he will get questions about CPI. He has to get those questions today. Of course, he'll be on at 10 a.m. Eastern. And at 10:30, we got Anne-Marie Band, maybe to calm us down, calm the markets. So special trader for us today, guys. We got an action-packed show right here, of course, TTP Live. You can't go anywhere, guys. We're going to cover it all. We're going to trade. We're going to talk to traders, and we're going to do it all right here live, guys. Let's keep it going. And you guys smash the like. SMCI making moves today. And guys, I got to tell you guys, this morning I missed out on a trade that could have been the first really nice trade in the funded account. I lost $22 on it. I always will tell you guys how it goes, but it was just a little bit of a miss, guys. And that's how it goes sometimes, right? You can get really close, and what I did here is I didn't follow completely my rules, and that's where it can get really bad sometimes. And I'm actually getting another opportunity to get in on this right here at $10, but not going to take it now. Earlier was the trade, not now, right? So we'll see what happens here. This was AIFF, guys. This was not a bad move here, and it's already recovering. Just mentioning. I'm not going to touch it here, guys, but you guys can see my trade, and I always love to give you guys the real insight into the trade, right? So I saw this immediately, this trend line, and I could see it kind of coming back to it. The stock was right now trading at like 1040. And so I looked for the pullback entrance. I did get in, but I was looking to get in closer towards 980s. I ended up rushing in a little bit, like getting a little bit too excited when the stock came back down, right? And so as the stock was up here around the 1050s, 1040s, the stock ended up coming back there towards 10. And I just got too excited. I missed the 990s move, and then it started to recover 10, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to hop in. But even I felt like I was chasing there. One of my rules is to, of course, try to get in the entry where the stop would be. And if I did get in on that entry, that would have been closer towards the 980s. So if I'm getting in on 10, the stop for me would have been about 20 cents closer towards that trend line. And then you could maybe risk to the 980s or the 970s. So the entry should have been around the 980s. And then I could have risked to the 960s or even to the 950s, and then got in this nice little lift. It did end up going there towards 12. Would I have held it towards 12? Probably not. I probably would have sold it off the pop over this 11. Maybe rode it up towards like 11:30 and then sold it all. But that would have been a nice little win, guys. And I just got to keep getting after it. I know the right setups. I know what I need to be looking for. We'll talk a little bit more about my penny stock strategy that has been working. And I just got to keep it going, guys. The key is using bigger time frames and shorter time frames, combining the look. So when you start seeing that stock pop on the 1 minute, make sure that you can look for maybe some pullback action. Another thing that helped here, and why I shouldn't have gotten at that point where I did get in, was the MACD cross. If I actually point towards the MACD cross, right when we were at that 10, you guys will see here that it was actually starting to break down a little bit off of that. And so you can see right there, we were crossing back down, and what I needed to see was it to cross back above on the 1 minute. And that's really where we got the move here, where it went right back towards right here, towards this 1070s, and then started to come right back up, right? And so that's what I should have been waiting for. It should have been closer towards the 634 mark. So we'll see what happens there, guys. Actually, it's over here. This is the move, right? So the crossover starts to happen, and it crosses down, right? I need the crossover to happen back. This was the entrance. That's why I was a little confused there. But so there it is, the 990 sweep down. Once this crossed back over, which was right around here, this should have been an area that go and enter. So the recovery of 10, once it recovered, I could have gone in and then risked off that 10 also. Another way to get into it. Of course, always looking at the 15 and 30 to make sure that those are remaining cross and giving you the ability to catch the move. We'll see what happens there in AIFF. Firefly Neuroscience, one of the top movers this morning. Yep. I see it, Eli. I see it. It was a tough one, man. And you guys can see it. Got in there, 10:03. I tell you guys how it is, man. I just chased the tiniest amount, and that cost me this morning. Would have made like about $100. Of course, I'm down about 55 overall in the new funded account. Not going to be mad at all, guys. I've been keeping my risk to return really in measure. This one win would have covered all that and then some. So just got to keep pushing, guys, and we'll see what else we can find. Let's go to, of course, the SPY here and see what's going on with the market. Can we bounce here? We went all the way back down to the 600. Now we're getting a little bit of a bounce, but it's going to be hard to bounce here, guys. I think that it's really a surprising action today. A lot of bulls coming back in, and that's how they do it to you guys. Like always, one of the things I say about day trading is that it's a lot more on the psychology of the move. And in this case, the psychology of the move was what? Upside. I was even looking upside. That's why I'll get into the playbook today. But to tell you the truth, the playbook is on the corner. It's on the sideline. Sometimes you're going to have a playbook. Then something happens like this, CPI taking completely over and knocking things down. So, of course, we'll see what happens out there, but definitely the month-over-month outlook really shaking things up there for CPI this morning. And now, I mean, we're left watching, right? And I think that that's the important thing. We'll see what happens with the action. There's still a lot more to take a look at here. We just got to kind of watch to see what's the next move. And I think that we will only find out towards the open. It's kind of hard to take some bets right here. All right, guys, let's keep it going. We'll take a look around out there. We'll go to the Sunrise report. We'll talk about some news that have, of course, there's some earning stocks that came in here. We can talk about some of those. The 10-year Treasury yield shoots above 4.6 now after the hot CPI report. So Treasury is definitely getting the lift. Let's see if the TLT is getting the push there, and TLT getting a hit down there. So you might have to look at the 10-year. Let me see. What do I have for the 10-year? 10-year Treasury. All right. Let me look here. I'm trying to get you guys some of these. I'm trying to get a 10-year IEF. There we go. IEF. You guys see that down hit? Of course, the yields on the index are going to go opposite to this, but I wanted to show you that downfall, and it was a quick downfall there to the 92.26. So this is the Barclays 7 to 10-year Treasury bond fund, and you guys can see how hard they're getting hit this morning. I think we probably get hit some more here as we're going to start seeing some real leak here, guys. I think another thing to look at is, like, let's say like the high flyers. Remember I talked about how Palantir would look interesting on a day when the uncertainty came back into play. I'm looking at maybe shorting some Palantir right here in the pre-market and then maybe adding to it towards the open here as things are really down here, guys. All right, guys, let's go ahead. Let me try to grab some at least 100 shares here of Palantir on the downside here. I'm going to go for the main account here and try to grab at least a little bit there. Still having a little bit of some buying power issue this morning. I'll let you guys know once that gets resolved. But right now, seeing what's going on out here, guys, Palantir is getting a little bit of a bounce. I would love to get short around the 1140s, 111.40, but definitely Palantir, names like this I could see starting to come back down, like IonQ, right? That had been hanging on there and had like a support. Everyone was looking to see if we could make the move. Now 37 seemed like they could cut down and we could start to let go. So a lot of times names hold on, and then now we can start to see the let go. QUBT all the way down to 782, QMCO all the way down now to 1763. That's been a quick downfall on this one. Another thing to look at is maybe some AI names, right? Like Sound, right? Starting to come back down to the 1370s. This could break today. What was another one? There's a bunch of AI names, right? Tempest. AI could be breaking the support and coming back down today. I think you got to continue to watch to see if the market gets a little bit of a bounce. Intel is one of the names that has been doing well and is doing well this morning. Look at that, guys. Intel shaking all the news. Even though there's some downside action, there is definitely some buying going on in Intel. Maybe somebody knows something that we don't, but yesterday, over 100 million shares traded. This is massively important, guys. When you see a move like this, even if you don't understand it, pay attention to it because it's telling me something. It's telling me this is probably a big investment coming in for Intel. Of course, a lot of people are looking into this. And another thing to think about is what's going on with Trump in the Saudi situation. I'll show you right here what's going on in Intel, and you guys can see the strength right there in Intel. We'll see if we continue the strength there. But there's some action definitely going on out there in Intel today. It's showing up on my scanner. That's something interesting there to see. Redfin showing up on the scanners. Let's get to the Sunrise Report. We got a lot to take a look at here. Let's go ahead. Let's get it started. Let's see what else is moving out in the market this morning, guys. All right, team, let's go looking into the Sunrise Report. Let's find what is actually making some moves. Of course, I got the scanner down there. I'm trying not to pay attention to it. I'm just going to take a look at what is actually getting the lift here based on the news, right? We give you guys this all the time. If you guys don't check this out, definitely get into our Discord so you guys can catch it this morning. Of course, headline was expected to be at 0.3, coming in a little bit hot there. And what are the drivers, right? Well, car prices and auto insurance, rising costs, rent-related categories, of course, 33% of the CPI weighting, definitely affecting things. Airfares, lower travel costs, but the market reaction was really what we wanted to see what happened there. It was all about rate cuts, right? And would we get some rate cuts? Bank of America warned that the Fed may stay hold for 2025, essentially not cutting at all. I think these are all things to think about. Let's go to CVS as they had news this morning. They had earnings and really kick some butt here, guys. CVS getting a nice little lift above that 56. We'll look to see if it can continue to move here. EPS at $1.19 versus 93 cents expected here. Revenues at $97.71 billion, beat the $97.19 billion expected. Stocks reaction to about 6%. Aetna struggled, though, higher medical costs coming in, playing in on that. So they had an operating loss there of $439 million versus a $676 million profit last year. So not looking good there in Aetna. Segment performance, insurance right there at 32.96, up 23%. Health services down 4%. The turnaround efforts, of course, new CEO David Joyner leading to restructuring, a $2 billion cost-cutting plan in progress. And the big picture, revenue growth, but profitability headwinds still remaining here for CVS. But as you guys can see, they love the report this morning. This is one that you start to take a look to see if you got a real turnaround. And why? Because you got this nice kind of undercut in action here where it kind of held the action. Now you got this like a rounding bottom with a nice little cup. I'd be looking for pullbacks back towards a 200 EMA, which is that purple line you see there. That's around the 58.35 resistance, or in this case, exactly 58.12. So if I can get that move back down towards, and I always kind of round down, right? Rather than round up on a buy, I'm looking for a pullback towards 58 today to maybe take some play in CVS. We'll see what happens on this one. Of course, let's keep the news flowing here. I'll have the CPI news on the bottom just to kind of give you guys a little bit of an outlook. Restaurant brands and Q4 earnings recap. Let's go to restaurants brand here. Of course, restaurant brand DRI. Oh, no, that's restaurant brands. Man, a lot of times I have all the tickers perfectly in my head. Restaurant brands. Restaurant brands is what was the ticker for this? QSR, I think. There we go. QSR. All right, QSR getting the lift there towards 69. As you can tell, this isn't one that I trade often. I normally trade Darden if I'm trading the restaurants, but it at least tells us a little bit more about the consumer, right? And I think that's the important thing here is catching how the consumer's working here. And definitely you're seeing it hit, right? The adjustment here at 81 cents, revenue at 2.38. The stock rose about 3%. Same store sales were growing. Burger King up 1.5%. Popeyes at 0.1. It just shows us more that maybe some fast food being taken more than restaurants. The expansion's not looking too bad. The key takeaway, sales growth beating the expectation, but net income falling here. Biogen is the next one that maybe talk about here. We'll see what happens here. BIBB, of course, Biogen down there towards 138, really beaten down. a beat on the EPS. Revenues beat also. The 25 outlook, though, disappointing here. EPS guidance at 15.25 to 16.25, missing the 16.34 expected. Alzheimer's drug did not do that great either, though. It did beat the expected outlook. That's like probably about the only upside here in Biogen. 87 million beating the 67 million expected for the Alzheimer's drug. The key takeaway, cost cutting worked, but week 25 guidance weighing on the expectations here. Another thing to think about is XLF. This is one area that I am still looking for some upside for the year. It's my top sector, right? I think this is going to do great underneath Trump. And we heard a lot of mentions yesterday in the conversation, and Jerome Powell being grilled all about deregulation, right? So investment banks are poised for gains as Trump's pro-business policy could fuel deal making. JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs seen as top picks. Boom in investment banking expected. 2025 IB revenue forecasting $316 billion. Key takeaway is that Wall Street is gearing up for a deal-making frenzy going on. And you guys heard it yesterday, even Trump making moves where now you can actually kind of leverage your foreign assets, right? So if you want to create a deal, you could essentially bribe them into the deal. And that was one thing that was taken off yesterday. So yeah, I think you're going to start seeing even more deals being made, because if there's some situations where you're allowed to essentially lobby and make these foreign executives and foreign leaders actually make moves, well, yeah, that's going to definitely push things to get some more action to happen. Lyft getting hit hard, guys, this morning, and I'm glad I didn't trade that one, right? You guys saw me yesterday kind of leave this one alone because it was getting hit. I was wondering if it was going to turn around, and it got hit further on the earnings. It did get a little bit of a spike. The algos, of course, making things go up there, scaring some people out. And then a real takedown back down towards the 1236 here. Lyft Q4 revenue missed at 1.55 billion versus the 1.56 billion expected. Let's go to Zillow here to wrap it up here. As Zillow also taking a major hit on the downside. Of course, the housing sector had been doing really well, now starting to turn down. And I think these are all things to think about in the long run, of course, with prolonged interest rates being higher and the house prices at where they are. I think you're going to see a massive slowdown in the housing market. And why? I've talked about it, the oversupply that's actually happened. I know there's a shortage of housing, but if you really look underneath the hood, what are you going to see? There's a shortage of housing, of housing overall. But if you look underneath the hood, look at new homes built. New homes right now, there's an actual oversupply. And this is where the problem is actually being caused, because these new homes, yeah, if I see a new home and it costs the same as these older homes, they're like 20, 30 years, well, I'm going to have to go for the newer home, right? But essentially, this is also being held back because when they go to get these newer homes, they also got like all these options and things like that. So I think a lot of things are being kind of held back right now with this, as buyers want to buy. But the truth is, they're just waiting to see if they can get cheaper prices with interest rates coming down. I mean, even a 0.5 percentage point can make a massive change in your monthly payment. So I think these are all things that are weighing in the market. Let's go back to the SPY here as we're going to start the show. We'll see what happens if we continue to see the leak come in here, guys. Now 598.74s. I talked about it, how Palantir seemed to be the target for me, and I wanted to short it there, guys. I had some buying power issues this morning, so didn't get short right here on that pop, but I would have been short right here and cashing already, guys. So, hey, is what it is. I tried to put the order in. It just didn't go in. We'll see what happens with that, and I'll try to get that fixed right now. So, hey, guys, check your buying power. Make sure everything's working right with the system right now. This would have been a nice little entry around the 111s. Now down to 110. Palantir dropping fast. Let's go ahead. Let's start this show. Let's bring in Michael. We'll go ahead and kick things off. Of course, today we got a great guest joining us today. So stick around at 10:30 a.m. Eastern. We'll have the calming voice of Anne-Marie Band joining us, and I'm excited, of course, to have her back. She's a trader that I've been following for a long time, and I'll tell you what, on a day like this where the chaos is all around, we could definitely use some Ann in our life. So let's kick things off, guys. We'll see what's going on out there. We'll start the countdown because it's a red light show today. Let's get it going. Hugo wants 200, baby. You ready to get back to the trading action?
You aim, you shoot, and make money.
It's going to be a great day. You guys know where you're at. All right, team, let's get it started. It's another beautiful day. Let's bring on Michael Noss and take a look at what's going on in the market. Market's in turmoil. Everything's down, man.
Yeah.
Red light, backlight. You already know. You already know. Scary news coming on today as I think some traders got caught by surprise, man.
Maybe.
They left the door open and they didn't realize it, man. That's what happened here.
I think the real question is what happens when the big boys start to get involved, right? When the big guys step in, do they buy it up and rip it just like they've always been doing, or is there something different this time? Right? For the last couple months, it's been the bears get super excited. They finally have a gap down day. And then they end up just ripping it up entirely. So right, we take a look. I'm just going to pop in here. Right, this is I know we have calming Anne-Marie coming, but I'll do a little stand-in for the first thing in the morning. Just zoom out, guys. We are at lows not seen since Friday. So, we're basically a little bit below Friday's range, a little bit below the last Wednesday or at last Wednesday's open. Nothing too substantial to me, to be honest, right? We are still stuck with inside this large range, which is still stuck with inside this small range. And then again, we need to remember the pattern of every time the market gaps down, there is some sort of power that is super excited that they're getting a discount and they're buying it back up. And that's been happening every single time. I don't have any reason so far to think that that's going to change. It could. Right, at some point it's going to, but we have to continue to play the action that we're used to seeing, which is buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip over and over and over again. So if they don't buy the dip today, that will be interesting, but we need to see, what happens if we get into these prior two lows where they bought them up in the pre-market, and then even if we break that all the way down to 580, which is a long way away, but a lot of these places is where the market's kind of stood in and stood its ground. So we take a look at the heat map as we expect, mostly red, at least off the open. And the stuff that's holding up continues to be the same names. It continues to be natural gas, things made in America, and then China. China doesn't care about all this trade war stuff. We keep moving higher on China when it comes to what's going on there. So as I was going through all these ETFs, which again I do every couple times a day, every morning, every night, every weekend, all that. Not a whole lot's going on, right? Bitcoin's down a little bit, and Bitcoin's going to ultimate risk hedge, but we're still well above this prior low. We're putting a little bit of a bottoming tail. We're still stuck within this range. So I think traders might be getting a little bit excited because it finally looks like there's some action or some movement going on. But I think it's important to zoom out and say, hey, we are still incredibly range bound. The question we need to ask, and I'll get in 25 minutes from now, what happens when the big guys can play ball? Right? The big guys can't play when it comes to this little, the little pre-market volume is not enough for them to get interested. You see gaps inside the candles here. And this is mostly retail in the free market. So what happens again when they can start to get involved with that buy program come back in? That's what I'm watching for. So I'll be looking to see if there's tips to buy off the open. So I filled up a lot of my list with my AVWAP fade strategy with names that are gapping down that I think have a chance to kind of reverse the gap higher. So TDC, SPIR, Lyft, a lot of these names that are down pretty substantially, that if we get a little bit of reversal in the market could be something to keep an eye on. So
All
Like you
right, we'll
should.
see what's going on out there, Michael. I think you're. I don't know if it was my internet or yeah. I agree. The mic. It's either the mic or the internet. You're like kind of cutting in and out there.
Let
But
me
no
unplug it,
worries.
plug it back in, see what happens.
Yeah, it just might be too cold over there. The mic needs a little warm up action. No worries, guys. It'll get better, guys. We'll fix it up here. Definitely taking a look into the market here. It's good now. Towards the end there, it got a little better. Yeah, I think it was just the internet, like kind of coming just a little bit in and out, but that's how it goes sometimes, guys. Trying to go ahead and nail this out there, guys. Looking for some trades out there. Palantir, definitely one that I want to go after this morning. That's already down towards the low. Looking to see if that can keep falling today, guys. So I mentioned this just, I think, like a day or two ago. I said I'd keep watching Palantir, but I'd wait for the day the uncertainty came back in. This to me is the perfect kind of day, the perfect recipe to get Palantir back down towards a moving average, right? I would be looking at the dailies to kind of put a perspective in, right? And I'd say, okay, well, the 9 EMA makes sense for me. That could be back down towards 104.27. We're still 5 points from that, right? So I think this is definitely one that for me on the day trade action, yeah, this is the one that catches some traders today. Another thing that happens is you get the news to help you today, right? Because what happens is, let's say if you're not so an active trader, right? Like my friend that I talked to you guys, I think it was just yesterday that I talked to you guys about the story about him being up like 200%, then 300, then 400%, and texting me about Palantir. That also gave me the insight. They're not taking the profits. They think this is going to 200, 300, right? So in that case, they're going to get stuck today. And what are they going to see on the news if they turn it on? CPI, hot, inflation coming in. And the scare starts happening, right? So the scared starts happening. The emotions start running out that, oh, well, maybe I got to run and take profits now, right? And you're not too far away from the action, about 3 points. But I do think that that's going to cause some psychology scare today, essentially causing some profit taking, which could actually make Palantir go down even faster, right? So we'll see what happens there today with the stock like Palantir. What do you think? Oh, Michael, I lost you there. I think the mic switched up there when you kind of switched there. So just check your mic settings really quickly. In the wheel box at the bottom, you'll see the settings. Go to audio and then just make sure that it has the right one selected.
Here.
There you go. I got you.
Yeah, I was about to say, but that moment that you described, which all the retail dumps, that's what the institutions are looking for, right?
Yeah.
They're not institutions, right? They're not panic sellers. They're not reacting to one CPI print and saying, I've got to change the way I'm doing my entire life. So one thing I did do is I just drew the anchored VWAP here from the breakout day on Palantir,
Nice.
and that's sitting right below us here at 105. So that's a pretty decent move from here for a day trade. That's great. But if it ends up hitting that for people who kind of miss the move and they're looking for something to do on Palantir, that might actually end up being the play, right? Wait for that pullback, see if we undercut that or if we find some support there, because these institutions we know like to fill off of VWAP. That's where they get paid, is based off how they fill off of VWAP. So if we can get to that point and we can hold in there, then that's super interesting to me. So again, I'm doing the market for me is innocent until proven guilty at this point, just because of the pattern that we've had of every single, right? Remember this FOMC flush, and then they bought it up, and then we got back to that zone. They bought it up. We gapped down because of tariffs or whatever this was. They buy it up, right? This was another tariff gap that they bought up, and then another tariff gap. And we talked about on Monday, if you just go to SP 500, there was more tariff news that happened right here, right on this candle, and they bought it up. So over and over and over again, there's this pattern of every time things even look slightly bad in the overall market, some buy program is coming in order to push the market higher. So for me, I am super interested in if that happens again. I think that's something that's good that we have for we can actually watch and wait. then we also got to keep in mind, old J-Pow is chatting again, right? He's chatting again at the same time he was yesterday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So maybe he comes in, he sees the market down a little bit, and he needs to pump his portfolio some. He says, yeah, we're going to cut rates anyway, because that's what everyone's looking to do, is what's going to happen when rates cut, what's going to happen around rates cutting. So that's something that's super interesting to me when it comes to when it comes to kind of what's going on, what's happening here. We need to see that opening, because so far all of these gaps that I'm talking about, where they gap it down and buy it, that's happened not necessarily like right off the open, the first tick, but it's usually happened in the first half hour or so. So that's my plan, is I'm going to get continue to follow the system for these VWAP trades that I am trying to build out, and I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting to see what happens. So I was talking to you guys about this Notion template that I'm going to be sharing. Something weird happened yesterday, so I'm trying to learn Notion a little bit. So I'll be starting that today. But just some of the names that I'm looking to short if the market ends up struggling a bit. I can go right here. Right, CVS spending all morning above its VWAP. Looks like it's might be trying to struggle to get through there. For some of the long ones, I'm looking at something like Teradata, TDC, right? Gapping down, it's hanging out below VWAP. If it can get above SPIR, this thing's just chopping around its VWAP. It's obviously got cut like in half. So a little bit of a bounce here could be interesting. Um, Similar Web, another one, pretty big gap down, 26%. So I'm looking at some of these names. Lyft, for example, down 15%. If we can get back above VWAP, kind of just looking to see if all of these line up with some sort of a push inside the market, then that's kind of the long list. And then to the short side, a lot of these gap ups, right? Upstart, again, CVS, we talked about. This is probably looking to be my favorite, even though it's slower moving. Dash, Gilead, Intel, uh, anything that's bucking the trend that may actually end up giving way if the market does. But for me, it's, sit out maybe the first 15 minutes or so today, and wait to see if I can get a trigger a little bit later in the day. So I'll be just watching the overall market for you guys.
I
Um,
love it, my friend. This morning missing a little bit, man. Got to keep working on the rule play, guys. AIFF. I don't know if you saw me mention it, Michael.
mhm.
That was one this morning, man. Missed it by a hair, and it was just more long, just getting eager, right, and getting in just a slight bit earlier, and not following in the rule of entry should be where the stop is. And I literally thought about it, and I had it set up there. 15-minute outlook had a nice like, kind of just trend line approach, right? And these throwback looks, guys, on these smaller stocks, I think are so great to look for. So look for like a lot of times patterns to run into kind of whole dollars, like here, the $10, right? So the $10
Mhm.
brings the first early momentum, right? It breaks out off of that $10, right? But you got to know that, of course, let's say if longs got in at 10, right? Where are they usually probably risking towards? If you look at the chart, probably on that that 980, right? And so essentially the stock went back above that 10, shoots above it, comes back towards like 986, bounces right back above 10, gives you that breakout above 10. In my eyes, that one was the one that was kind of more the trappy one, where it did go back towards, let's say, 1087, but then the next candle really quickly comes back to 974. What is it doing? It's trapping those 10 buyers, right? Trying to wash them
Mhm.
out before it really goes. And so with these smaller plays, you almost have to expect the washout. That's part of my rules. Literally, it's in the rules. Look for the washout attempt, then get in, right? And that's why the entry should be where near the stop is. And I just want to talk about it with those traders out there, because I know a lot of the traders out here, they love these fast movers and love trading it. One of the things is understanding the psychology of waiting for the bulls to get washed and then joining the trade, right?
Yep.
So essentially looking for these liquidity actions on the tape. And I think that's exactly what I saw there. That, yeah, I just need to make a slight improvement on the execution side. Can't be mad because I kept the losses very limited, but it's a learning lesson. And that's the most important thing, guys. I hope that you guys can learn from this and maybe nail another move. Interesting one mentioned. Steph brought XLO. We'll talk about that one right quick, and then we'll get back to some higher quality plays. But this one looks like there's a deal here with AbbVie, and I love smaller names that mention a bigger stock, right? Because that's the move that can really get some investors interested
Mhm.
in a small cap, right? Because
Yeah.
now the big boy wants it, right? And if the big boy wants it, at any point, Avi could just buy it, right? And that's the mentality that comes into play. So that's why I'm always looking for smaller names to mention. And that AIFF had to mention with NVIDIA. So two names clearly that, hey, you start to mention big boys, well, you get the attention, right? And I think that's the important thing. That's why those plays made sense also this morning. We'll see if they make sense towards the open.
Yeah, I love the, putting your stop or putting your entry where other people put their stops, because it's one of those, I'm not a subscriber to the tinfoil hat. I know a lot of market makers and hedge funds. They're not looking for your stop. They don't care about any one of our position that, even if you're trading 10,000 shares, that's completely irrelevant to these guys. They're just so big. But if you're putting your stop at a place that everyone else is, then they don't need to see that order. They're not hunting that particular order. What they're doing is they're saying, I know that most retail traders just put their stop the high of the day or the low of the day or
Yeah.
somewhere in between. So I'm just going to run that as opposed to, again, being able to like look and see, oh, you put your stop right here. We're just going to run obvious areas for liquidity. So very, very common tactic is just that, is either putting your order beyond an obvious stop run place, or you wait for the stop run to happen and then you wait for a reverse back down. So you wait for a high day break, and then when it starts to come back into that high day and undercuts that area, you short there and you put your stop above that point, just hoping that if they're running the stops, then they're going to rip it in the other direction. So yeah, very, very common. Again, it's kind of the whole premise of what I'm trying to do with my VWAP fades here, is that a lot of people, they look to buy the VWAP dip and then they put their stop under VWAP. Well, if that's something that a lot of people end up doing, well, then it makes sense that if the market ends up breaking that VWAP, there's a lot of stops under there and a lot of people looking to get out of that position. And then, right, they take that trade. So that's the idea behind that. I think you can build a whole strategy, and then it becomes this circular thing where if enough people start fading the VWAP plays, then the VWAP bounce will start working again. It's just kind of the way the markets work. Everyone's trying to get a one up on everyone else, whether you're a market maker, a hedge fund, a large institution, or a retail trader. It doesn't matter, right? Everyone's trying to play that game. So just keeping an eye here the last 10 minutes before the open on the SPY, right? Digging in a little bit. I'm looking to, do the same markup that I always do. So far, this just pre-market high, pre-market low kind of trading has been very interesting. Makes me want to. This is something I know we're planning on doing more. Talk to our friends over at the Fivers and see maybe we get some accounts over there where I would just trade the CFD version of the Nasdaq or the S&P 500 or something, because the more we knock, the more I'm seeing myself mark up the pre-market high and low and being able to kind of figure out trades around that zone, the more that makes me interested. And this is again how strategies are developed, and this is how what I do on the swing trading basis is to say, let me see something. If that thing occurs over and over and over again, let me see if I can then test it, record what I'm doing, take trades based off of it. So I'm very interested. So I know we're going to start chatting a little more with our parent company, the Fivers, but might be interesting just to see if I can build a strategy just around pre-market highs, pre-market lows on the S&P 500 or the Nasdaq. I know you can trade those over there.
Yeah, I like it on an undercut, right? So looking for red to green action off of those lows, right? So
Yeah.
maybe where it looks for specifically a support to be broken at the open, and then a close back above that based on a time frame, right? And I think
Hmm.
that would be a great strategy approach there, Michael. I think it's definitely something that works often, right? Or the extreme on the CPI, just using that, right, as
Yeah.
your indicator that it's going to come back to the mean, right? Maybe it's 50% back or something like that that you're looking for. Doesn't necessarily need to go back all the way to the action, right, to the top, but it's still good money to be made.
Hmm.
I know at least kind of trying to trade these guys is near impossible, I can tell you guys. You can try all you want, like trying to trade the action like right as a number comes out.
Yeah, good luck.
You're not fast enough, dude.
Yeah.
You're not. You might think you are, but you're not that fast, man.
Mhm.
Trust me. Trust me. I've been there. I've tried it. It just can't be beat, right? Like it doesn't matter how fast you are. These are algorithms that are trading and they have direct routing, probably in milliseconds. They're making decisions, whether it's going to take you and I at least maybe 3 seconds to make a decision.
Yeah.
And that's if you're like extremely fast at processing information, right? So,
So yeah, another thing that I'm going to look to do too here as I again start to build up. Maybe I'll open just a account here with the 5 or 2 just to trade the S&P 500. But something that my friend Brian Shannon does all the time, and again something I want to get deeper into is he just looks for these news candles on whether it's FOMC day, whether it's JPOW shakes something up, or in this case whether it's CPI, and he just slaps a VWAP right on that and says, okay, this is the event that has occurred. So I don't need to put necessarily my VWAP just at the beginning of the day or a high or low or something like that. I'm going to put my VWAP on the actual event candle. In this case, pretty obvious, right? This is the event candle, and then start to play around that, right? If price gets to VWAP and looks like it's going to hold, then maybe I'll take a trade and vice versa. It's interesting. It's something again I'm going to end up watching because the point of this, everything that you see me do here while I'm getting into the day trading game, is to try to build different systems, and each system have a very slight edge, and just make it fairly simple for myself to trade a lot of simple um, a lot of simple strategies that I don't need to think too much about, and I can just kind of robotically type trade. So again, looking at anchored VWAPs from major levels, my VWAP fade, and then my overextended up or down systems that I've tested would be 3 simple ones. Then I'm just sending out 20-30 orders a day and just letting everything work. That's the idea. That's kind of what I do from a swing trading side of things, where I have multiple systems. Some are pullback, some are mean reversion, some are trend following, some are using kind of options type magic. And then the idea is each of those systems has a pretty okay edge, but combining those systems is what actually makes the most sense. So it's like what Mitch talks about a lot with his playbook, right? There's not one thing that you want to look at that's going to kind of be your playbook and go from there, but it's something that as we end up stacking on top of each other, you get a bunch of systems, they can end up working. So
all right, guys, I got to clarify something right here. So it looks like the issue on the buying power was on Money Mitch's side here. So it looks like I had a working order here that I hadn't seen there in the background. And this is, part of using, the browser and the platform at the same time, using multiple accounts. But yeah, it's on me here, guys. So I had a little issue there. I can show you guys. So essentially, I wasn't being able to get the order in, but what it was is that I had a VIX order there that was standing out there and kind of outstanding, that was taking some of my buying power in the morning. That's why I was struggling mentally. I was like, well, I'm trying to. This is only 20 shares. Like I should be able to get it in. Yeah, I could have got it in there. It was just a matter of a working order being out there, kind of blocking the buying power. And that's just how it goes, right? So hey. Learning lesson here, and we'll see what happens there. Was trying to get short Palantir, so now I'll be looking for a pop above those levels to see if we get a hit back down. But Palantir definitely on the radar today, guys. We'll see what happens. My playbook was really kind of, I'll be honest as it can be, pretty bullish, guys. So with the CPI report that came out, it's going to be hard to kind of get back into that bullish stance. And it could easily do it today, but I think I'll have to wait and see for the market to show me that it wants to be bullish versus me wanting to stay bullish. Now, the area that I did like, if I do look for the reversal back, it's the financials, man. Yesterday, too much talk on Jerome Powell and about deregulation, Dodd-Frank, all these kind of issues that were essentially being told what? Well, Jerome said he's going to keep watch on the situation. But he also said that he's not going to be able to he's not going to be able to stop Trump in what he's doing, right? So if he's going to just bring that deregulation in, I think it'll just cause a continued tailwind action for this to kind of keep pushing to the next level. So I'd keep watch to see financials on pullbacks. Now that we're breaking the 9, of course, I think it's a hard area to look for recovery. On my playbook, I looked for 9 EMA recovery here, so I could still look for that on the day. That's 51.41. But I'd be looking for more like maybe a 50 pullback, right? That kind of makes sense. To 50 EMA right there at 49.97. Maybe it comes back to 50 and we get a throwback opportunity look on the weekly where we start to like kind of come back towards this, and then maybe can go back higher, create a base here around the 50 and 51. So what are you thinking about the financials in that talk yesterday, Michael?
I think they're looking great here. So I think this zone is obviously the one to watch, right? It's the breakout that we had a couple days ago, or sorry, that was December, and then we've just been chopping around that zone. So we got to dig in there, just kind of like you mentioned, a nice little flush and rip would be great. It's just something that's going to hang out and reverse this. But we're down 3-4 days in a row. Things are getting a little bit kind of oversold a bit. It's a very strong sector. It's been one of the strongest since the beginning of the year, and might be one of those that if they don't need to lower rates that much, that's, banks don't really care whether the rates are high or the rates are low. They benefit a little bit better on lower rates. But what they don't like is rates moving too quickly. That becomes the hardest thing, because they're trying to, you got to think of the bank's business model. You take deposits, you give them nothing for those deposits, and then you loan out at a certain rate. Now, if you're loaning out at anything at a fixed rate, it becomes really, really hard when rates are moving quickly. So the best thing for the financial sectors, if JPOW comes out and says, okay, we're not doing anything for a while, we're not going to raise or lower, or gives you some sort of very specific plan on what's going to happen going forward. Because if they can plan around it, there's a lot of hedging and things like that they can do. I'm also just impressed with the relative strength, right? If we look at how this candle includes the pre-market candle, so we are not even under yesterday's low here on the financials, whereas the SPY obviously that's getting hit a little bit more. The IWM is probably going to be hit the worst, just because small caps, right? They're the most interest rate sensitive vehicles that are out there. So yeah, XLF looks interesting. Again, just going through this though, it seems like it's more of the same. Now, I keep pounding the table on China. Now, again, I am very long China. But
China.
gapping up again. We got BABA. I'm in a bunch of BABA. That's gapping up again.
Lord, man. You're just gonna frustrate me, Michael. Look,
It's
I mean, it's just beautiful, man. And I feel like too many people just can't get these China names right sometimes. I think a part of it is using deeper time frames when you're looking at China, using like the monthly. The gaps are always very hard to deal with. You can see it on that chart, very gappy, right? And I think that one of the things to look at is when you get that kind of gap down on these names, you have to approach longer term support and giving yourself room on these China names, because that's the only way I've seen to be able to go about it. And trying to catch them in the intraday is very difficult. I don't know about if you've tried to catch these before. They have a tendency of just doing these range moves, and you could literally see it right on the tape, right in the 15 minutes. They repeat these moves where it's like up range, bottom range breakdown, up range, sideways action, up breakout, right? So top of the
yeah,
range,
all the trading takes
boom.
place overnight, right? So
Yeah.
it's one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look at weekly charts. The idea behind,
Yeah.
again, these plays was just this a view up from these highs. Spent a long
I
time below
like it.
that. This candle right here where we closed above, that's where I got involved. So a very, very simple kind of idea, to something I don't want to think too much about, and then I want to hold
Mhm.
these guys because they're very, very choppy. So you got to kind of take a step back and take a deep breath. But let's just look. We are open now. Let's see what the SPY
All
is
right,
doing
let's
here.
get after it, guys. XLO on my radar here. It already starting off pretty good. It just went to the 130 area. That's the area to look for support. It already came into play. I'm looking to see if maybe I can get an attempt back towards 132 and then the scoop towards 150.
So far, right, we're grinding down a little bit. We have, again, the AVWAP right here from the CPI print. I'm watching this. Here's the pre-market low to see if we dig in here. And then obviously the pre-market high. I think those are going to be the three major levels that I'm keeping an eye on. I'm just looking to see, and this is, standing back, being a little bit calming, is do we get that dip and rip that we've just been getting over and over and over again all year and into the next year? Are people just waiting for, okay, it's another gap down, let's buy it again? That's so if we can get and close above the anchored VWAP from the CPI lows, again, just means the average price here of this accumulation zone ends up being positive, and we can look to potentially take some sort of trade there. Where again, we're just looking to see. Is this buy program that somebody keeps just hitting the button every time we get any sort of a gap down in the market? Are they just going to slam that buy button again? I don't know. So let's wait and see. So we got the Qs moving higher. And then we've got, so the Qs are moving a little bit higher. We're getting over this kind of pre-market hump here. Let me move these lines here and there, and then do an anchored VWAP from this level. So the Qs are trying to break that anchored VWAP already. That would be very promising if we can get above there. IWM, moving a little bit higher. And then let's look at the heat map. So the heat map's going to update here. Still about the same. So nothing's really changing here. We're still red on most sectors. Again, makes sense with the gap down. But we're looking to see kind of what happens from an intraday basis. I actually reached out to TrendSpider and said, I want the same heat map, but instead of change from the close, I want change from the open. I think that'd be another one to gain. We'll see if they can get that for us. But yeah, all of these IWM, if we anchor the VWAP from this low, it's trying to get there as well. So a lot of these names, so far, that dip and rip seems to be happening. The day it doesn't happen,
Long
that's going to be the
XLO.
most interesting day.
Long XLO, guys.
Taking some XLO there, just waiting. I haven't seen really anything come through the scanner just yet.
Keeping it tight here, guys. The 128's risk here, looking for the pop above 150 to really make a move here. Needs to get back above $2 here. So one thing I did see is that it did do that fake out scare liquidity move right before this towards 128, 127, created a new low, washed out some traders. That was my sign to get in.
I'm looking through some of these. Lift looks like it's lifting, pun intended. It's a little bit early for me. I missed that one. So this is probably going to be the trade of the day. Again, what we're looking for is just exactly this, where we want a lot of the pre-market to hang out below VWAP, and then we want kind of an opening drive to take us over the VWAP. So unfortunately missed that one. Might have to end up being a little faster on some of these, but these are the names that have come through. This SPIR is breaking as well, and then TDC broke. Intel broke. Oof, that was the move. Intel broke down substantially. This thing just can't keep going. It's poor Intel. Every gap ends up getting sold on this particular name. But yeah, we're still watching, just seeing if we get another undercut and then some sort of a rally there. But yeah, so it looks like two already missed one. That's why if I can prove this one out, we're gonna systematize this a little bit. So pop in. Sorry, wasn't sure.
All right, guys. XLO into the green here now, going to 147. Can I get the 150 spike there, guys? I'm looking to see what happens here at 150s. After that, I'll look for a 145 pullback to maybe get an ad here. There goes 150s. It goes to 152 right on the dot. Now I'm looking for that 140 pullback, kind of wash out the 150 buyers and then come right back and take it. So it looks pretty good here.
Yeah, so let's pop back over to the SPY, which is still hovering below, but looking like it might want to reclaim this AVWAP right here. So this is where, I might take a speculative bet if I was, might do this in my real account, but this is something that I may test for a different strategy to trade here as well. It's just these anchored VWAPs from these major levels, just to see if we can get through here. The rest of the market seems to be doing okay with it. The Qs are already through. IWM is already through. So see if the S&P 500 is going to make it through this level. I think that would be something that'd be very, very interesting if it happened.
Got the ad there, guys. I'm at 138 here, guys, on the funded account. Looking to hold off the 130s now. It just pulled back. Now this next candle should go back through that 152 in my eyes. If it doesn't, then it's giving me the sign of the out.
Yeah, so we have, if we're gonna make it through this, it might be one of those things where maybe we get a little bit of an opening drive here that's kind of interesting, and then from there we end up chilling out until old J Pow comes into town because
Oh,
he's
Jay
remember
Powell's
he's
gonna be on today. Don't forget it.
yeah he's coming back, so we'll see.
He's
Um,
gonna get grilled some more. Let's be honest.
yeah, again, I don't know why you'd ever want that job. So if we slap on a 2-day VWAP, that's all the way up to 603. So that gives us a little bit of room if we want to make it through that and then start to rally up. I got to imagine if we end up doing, and it's way too early to say that's what's happening, this kind of gap and rip. If we end up seeing that again, as a bear, you'd have to just give up at that point, right? You'd have to just throw in the towel and say that's enough. I'm not shorting this market ever again. Because if every single gap down is just going to get bought, then why bother? Yeah.
I agree. I'm
Um,
looking at XLO, guys. I'm still in it here, guys. It needs to start making that move now. The ticking time bomb's going off here. Let's see if it goes into the green and takes the move.
I just bought a little bit of Zillow with Z. So again, the idea is
Zillow.
we want the undercut of VWAP. We want the breakthrough. The 2-day VWAP is sitting there at 80.50. So that's a pretty big move on this. One thing I'm learning from trading this is that although that's the ultimate target, I have to be much tighter on my my risk management with these. Right, I need to um, be able to exit this thing way quicker. Right, waiting for that. I've seen so many trades get through that anchored VWAP and then fail. So I need to just be quicker when it comes to making sure that if I get any profit in my favor, I'm just taking some off the table and then going from there because uh, seeing this over and over again where you have a little bit of a move in your favor and that works out great, and then at the end of the day it ends up fading. So um, just looking to do that more and more, again, learning as things go, just trying to be a little less greedy, I guess, when it comes. So there's Zillow moving. I'm already going to take half of that off because I think I'm sized up a little bit too much. So
There
we'll
you go.
take
There you go. Smart move and realizing and being aware of your sizing. Always important there, Michael. Realizing it and saying, well, you know what? I already got some cash. Let me just take some off here and I can see what
Mhm.
happens. Awareness, guys, of your own trading is so important, guys. Catch yourself. Be the observer. Catch what your own mind is saying. This will also catch you when you're being greedy.
That is my number one trading problem, and I think it comes from in swing trading world, right? You're trying to always go for the guts. You want to buy something and have it be a 50, 60, 80% winner. And with day trading,
Uh-huh.
it's just more of taking the money when you got it and moving on to the next thing. So it's balancing those two different sides.
I
SPY
agree.
made it through that AVWAP, so now it came back down to test it. Now it looks like it's hold. So far we're getting that dip and rip. Now whether or not that's going to continue, I don't really know. But again, something we have to keep an eye on to see if that's something that's gonna keep going here.
All right, guys, not looking too bad here. Let's see if XLO can really kind of get the jump. It's back to 140, so the offering is there. 145 being the wall right now on the level 2. Let's see if we can get back through that 145, hit 150, and really start moving here.
Let's look at the Qs. Still grinding higher. We can look at the IWM. Still kind of chopping around. And then let's take a look at the dashboard. So the dashboard still hasn't moved. Everything's still pretty red. China is going though. 1.5% here.
China.
MSOS is actually up of all things. So good for that.
Let's go.
And then right there's not lift. And there's Zillow pulling back to VWAP. So this might end up being just a little bit of a quick one. Um, Again, being tighter on the risk. The risk initially was low of the day, but now if I see any substantial time below VWAP, I'll probably cut them a little bit early as well. So again, just adapting on the fly.
That's all you can do, man. That's the game of day trading, guys. All right, now starting to get the lift. At this point, it's like I should break even on this, but what I'm doing is the mentality behind me right now is not to show my hand, but in my mind, I'm already starting to say, okay, so you're getting back above VWAP. We should see the breakout now. 152, the next wall break here, 145 wall gone here. So let's see if they could take out the 152 and then really start making this move. Then I can hold break even and really look for the breakout back down towards my entry. Just get out. Looking for the breakout here, XLO. Let's see if it starts to show up on my scanner. This is always a good sign. So XLO is right here in the middle of my scanner here. So another good sign to do is that if you're in the right name, at least for me, I got a momentum scanner. What do I want to see? I want to show it. I want to see it pop up to the top, right? That's a good conviction sign that it's showing up on my momentum scanner.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's going to get algorithms. It's going to get other traders. It's going to get things like that interested more and more.
Yeah.
The more it's up there, and the more people are interested in that. Um, Denny's is actually just hanking here. So I'm just adding some things to the scanners just in case. This is something else, a change that I'm making to what I'm doing here is in that first opening drive, I'm going to start adding some names to the AVWAP fade just in case later in the day they get back above that VWAP. So, for example, um, at Denny's just falling apart here. I think we have one of those up here somewhere.
The Denny's. All right, just got my
Yeah,
break even test there, guys. It went right to my break even here, looking to see if it gets back above the 140s here, but might cut it here if it starts to undercut.
so the IWM broke out that VWAP anchored from the CPI print, came back to test it, and now it looks like it's coiling higher. A lot of these markets were doing the same thing. We saw that on the SPY, came back down to test it, started to grind a little bit higher. So again, this is something that I'm going to be interested in potentially taking as a trade, as something that if it ends up working, something that I can end up taking as a setup is something that I've seen Brian Shannon do a lot, where he just takes whatever a large range kind of igniting type candle does, says, okay, get me involved. I'm gonna take that trade um, when it breaks or when it bounces. So if we had gotten to that and then it started to reverse from it, potentially a little bit of a scalp to a short side that you could have there. So interesting. It's an interesting trade to look at. So something again as a group. That's why I'm talking about this live, is because we're trying to come up with strategies here. So if there's feedback on it, or if somebody's used it and it's either worked for them or not, check it out. Right, coming up with strategies. One thing to just find a stock and predict what happens next, and that can feel good in the moment, but in the long run, what we want to do is we want to come up with strategies that we can systematize and we can repeat. We can just do over and over and over again. We can develop scans for that will alert us in real time, all that stuff. That's what we're looking for here.
All right, guys, trying to stay focused here, right? I do want to start shorting in a little bit here. We're getting that 50% retracement, and I'm starting to look at that as a move that we could start to get the breakout from here. I'm setting the stop here on XLO. I got to go ahead and set the stop here. Might get there you go. It's got triggered through the 128s there. Out there, guys, $19 down, down about 43 on the day. Gave myself the right setup there. It could still wick and get back there. So I'm just going to keep watching this one, XLO. We'll see if it gets back towards the 150. Definitely wasn't something to kind of hang out through there. It already did the wash now on the 15. I'd take a look to see if that candle can go back to green, but that would need to get back through 141.
The SPY just continues its grind higher so far. And again, we're only 15 minutes into the day. Another gapper down, get everyone scared, get the bears real loud on Twitter. Just buy it. Just buy it up hard, rip it in everyone's face. So
I
uh
don't know about that one today. I think I'm on the opposite side. I think it's hitting both sides right now. So you scared the Bears out this morning. Now can you scare the Bulls out? I think one thing I'll be watching for is that the inflation talk, right? So I was in the category of not seeing any inflation really spike, but at least the report did show spiking inflation. That's the only thing I will say. I mean, it's up to you if you believe the reports or not, but I mean, it's something to think about, right? How that's starting to affect the outlook.
yeah, so we have J Pow in 13 minutes. So they definitely will probably bring up the CPI report
Yeah,
today.
that's my key is
Um,
that they're going to talk about it at least.
for me, as just a technician, I just got to look at it and say, we have had the pattern over and over and over again for the last little bit saying, if we dip, buy that dip. If we dip, buy the dip. If we dip over and over and over again. And at some point, it will stop working. But I would rather be the one that buys the dip 5 times and has it work 4 and get stopped out once than the one that does the opposite, where every time the dip is, I either sell my longs or something like that.
Yeah, that's where I think it's very different in the swing and the day trading game, right? In this action, I think it's very kind of in the day trade action. It could be that back and forth, right? AIFF, just to mention that one, up to $13, guys, 14. So big break right back through it. The 15 minutes did hold that $10 look in the pre-market when we were watching it. Look at that move. Boom. Big move there. AIFF up there towards 14 today. We'll see what happens. I mean, I'm looking right now, starting to see Palantir. So I'm looking at Palantir. I'm trying to stay with it right now because I feel like that's the one that if it did come right back down, could easily just come right through it. So I think you got to be patient here to start seeing J Powell come on here, but we're pretty close, guys. About 10 minutes away.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing. So far, again, we're just continuing to grind higher. We're just moving up on every down tick in the market is just getting bought. Right, this candle looked like it was going to close a little bit scary for a second there, and then they just came back in. Maybe if I go into a 1 minute, yeah, there we're up again. So we are now at, if everyone wants to be scared, markets or levels not seen since yesterday. So that's how scary that CPI print was. We were right here yesterday. And just the amount of bears that I saw on Twitter was absolutely hilarious. So just in,
It's also what happens, I think, in the mentality, right? Because it can easily happen. Like I made a lot of money on the VXX yesterday, right? I wasn't necessarily
Mhm.
bearish long term, but I was bearish on the intraday action. Why? The 15-minute. We talked about it here. We were coming back to the prior day range. Essentially, we went right above it and rejected it. And so what I'm looking at here, we're making it halfway back on the scare. Do we start to just work our way back down towards the low? That's what I'm looking at. And that's how
Ye-
day trading can be like very flip floppy, right?
well, yeah, it's one of those things that my buddy JC says it all the time that most arguments on Twitter could be completely solved if people just started by stating their time frame. If that was the
Yeah,
first thing that everyone said is
100%.
like,
I like that.
right? Someone comes out and says, "I'm really bearish on the market." Well, are you talking 2 minutes? Are you talking 2 days? Are
Today,
you talking
tomorrow,
2 months? Right?
in the next 10 minutes.
yeah, there's all these different competing market thoughts and yeah, what's your time frame on them? Somebody out there could have said I was really bearish on the CPI print and made a bunch of money if they're out. Again, I'm looking at it more of on what's happening every single time we dip and just that pattern that's been occurring over and over and over again. And if that's something that I should pay attention to, because in my mind, it is that every time we dip, I want to buy. So in my longer term and in my swing account, I've been over here just buying stuff, buying a lot of things, trying to get as much of that dip as I can. And at some point, it's one of those things where this will stop working at some point. There'll be a gap down. That gap down will get sold into, and then that's when you kind of, for me anyway, I start to change my tune a little bit and say, okay, right, if that's what's going to end up happening, then we're going to change. Until then, I just think you got to, these dip and rips are not happening by accident, and they're not happening from retail, right? There's some institutions out there that think this year is going to be a very good year, and they basically, on every gap down, they say, hey, turn on the buy program. Let's use these gap downs in order to get what we think is a good price on the market, and then we go from there. So again, my idea that I want to look at, and I want to test here with all of you guys, is this idea of this playing off the pre-market lows, the pre-market highs, and then again the VWAP for the day on the SPY, and just see if we can do something there. Because even if you're trading these low float crazy ones, if you had a little system on the SPY that makes you a few bucks every now and then, it's a good thing. Because this system that I'm talking about here would only work on days in which there's a CPI print or some large event that occurs. There'd be nothing to do on most days. So we're just looking for something that could make a little bit there. So we're about the halfway mark. I'm do something here just quickly to make our buddy Steve proud.
Steve.
I did the fib. I know he always looks for the halfway point. So I did a fib from the high of the CPI candle to the pre-market low. We are
I do these visually all the time, right? That's how I could tell that we were getting near that 50%, right? Just visually, you can tell. So now is when I look for that wick. I'm looking for the wick. Can you wick through it and then come back down through it, right? So I got a starter on Palantir. I think we might still approach the high today one more time and then start to make the down move. So I'm looking at it here, guys. Also got to get Jay Powell ready. I hope they don't start with someone else like they did yesterday. Yeah, he's coming on in 6 minutes.
So they gotta start with their yappy first to get all their stuff.
The yappy yap needs to come in here, and the yappy yap yesterday was all about that essentially they could hold rates if inflation was to show a little bit of some spiking. I wonder if Jay Powell has the to say that maybe we could raise rates if inflation kept spiking. Oh, a reverse pivot.
I think if you're worried about your job, are you going to tank the market? That's the other thing that if you put a little tinfoil hat on, is the guy who's running the country puts a lot of his personal stake on if the market's going higher under his presidency or not. If for those who don't know, with the last administration, every time the market would dip to a certain percentage, he would tweet. And he would tweet to pump the market. He'd basically say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to make this market move higher. So it's like, not only are you fighting the long-term trend, but you're now fighting the most powerful guy in the world. So if Jay Powell does something to tank the market, I think that would kind of exacerbate the, we got to get this guy Eddie here mentality that I think he already has. So far, every candle except the first one from the open has been green on a 2-minute basis. So it looks like the first red candle might be starting to form here. We're in that 50% area that was being talked about there. So the question is this something that we're going to consolidate for a bit, or is this a pullback? If it is a pullback, I'm going to watch this VWAP again from the underside. If we get down to this VWAP, that might be a place where I look to kind of get involved on the buy side of things, because again, that's a lot of candles up in a row. We got to take a break at some point today, you'd think.
Kindly making a nice breakout from the $2, guys, up there to 250 KDLY. It's a technology health information services company, getting a nice little lift there. CVS had some pretty good earnings this morning, was down kind of pulling back there right before with the CPI. Got a big lift out the gates there, guys. That has stayed strong there. So just making sure that we know some of the stronger names. Look, Yoshi is back, baby. I need that Yoshi sound. Yoshi, dude, I don't even know what the heck this does. It's a restaurant, but to me, I think it might be like a sushi play. But look at the daily chart. These are the ones that you want to find, guys, on the small cap side of things. There's no reason for this stock to be doing this, but it's definitely in an irrational move, right? Like I always like to say, the market literally can be illogical. In this case, it is, but
Mhm.
that doesn't matter because the stock just keeps going. And that's how it is. That's how trading sometimes can be, especially trading some of these smaller names.
Listen, I'll always be long sushi. That's that's just my mentality there. Uh,
Can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. All
the
right, guys, let's get Jay Powell ready here. Jay Powell. Hey guys, hit the like button. Come on, you guys out on YouTube. Take a second. Love me. Love Michael. Give us a like. We'll have a great trader joining us at 10:30. So excited to talk with Anne-Marie Band coming up in a little bit here, guys. But definitely smash the like. Jerome coming in about 2 minutes. 2 minutes, guys. 2-minute warning for Jerome. Jerome, report to the floor. You passed any account, Future? I did, man. I did. Future, you weren't here yesterday, but yeah, that's this account you're seeing on the screen right now. That's right here. Down about 76 in it right now, guys, but continuing to watch that XLO. Had a good trade set up on the AIFF today. That could have made me $100, $200. The way that I got to sometimes think about it too is that as long as I keep playing the setups, man, the accuracy is not the focus in this strategy. The strategy in this one is more just execution on A+ setups. As long as I keep playing the A+ setups, I'll fall into the green. That's the way I see it. And I think that that's the hardest part of trading penny stocks. You're probably going to have a very low accuracy rate unless you're kind of a scalper. That's a little bit different strategy. In this case, I'm playing big return on the reward side and a small risk. So what is that going to do? I'm going to have to stop out a lot, but it just needs to be manageable stop outs like I've been doing here. Lost what? $20 today, $21, right? Trying to continuously be around that $20 with 100 shares. Once I get to 200, I can maybe go to like $40 risk. What I don't want to do is, of course, start risking half the daily limit on one trade, right? That's what's going to start wrecking this account. Got to wait till I get into one good green trade, give myself a cushion on the account. Then I can feel a lot better. We'll see what happens here, guys. Pow coming on soon. Will he pow the market? We'll find out.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Yeah, if he
Where
could,
should we watch it? The Hill, the Wall Street Journal. Who should we support here?
They must love that stuff. Just free content, right? You just point the camera and
all you do is
go.
not even point the camera. All you do is steal it from the Fed website, Michael. That's all you do. I'll tell you the insight. They don't even have a camera there. All they're doing is just restreaming it. But it's free because it's public, right? There's no copy.
Question is, who's got the fastest one, right? Who's got the original stream that's not being restreamed, so we can be
to the Fed website or whatever it's on. But in this case, it's on those Congress websites. And I'll tell you right now, those Congress websites and Senate websites, they're so slow. They're so slow. What's going on out there, guys? How are we doing?
A little bit.
How do you guys set up your buy and sell orders? I have plenty of computing power and strong internet signals. Buy the TTP ago lags too much. I'm not sure, man. But it looks like you're doing scalping strategies. So one of the things is if you're doing a scalping strategy and it's just talk, right? I'm not saying that I have the answer. I'd take a look at looking at limit orders that are in like a +0.3 mentality, right? So essentially, if I want to get in here on, let's say XLO, I wanted to get in on the stock, right? And when it starts to kind of come back, it's going to be on the offer that I'm going to be able to get in. I'm more than likely not going to be able to get in on the bid side of things, right? And so a lot of times what you need to do is step up a little bit on the limit. So like, let's say if it's 128, I can put out an order at 131. +3 on the offer should probably get me in a fast manner. That's how I used to do it when I used to do scalps. I don't do it anymore, but I was using a hot button that gave the offer +0.3, right? So I just made this hot button for me and I would just click it, right? But in this case, you can just do it with the limit order, right? And just limit it up and then get in. All right. Still no conversation with Jerome Powell. I think they're just sitting around. They're all laughing. They're all smiling around. They saw their accounts this morning. They were prepared out there.
What to say? They got to get him on. Look at this. We're starting to bleed back down. But like I
Uh-oh.
talked about,
Uh-oh.
if we get to that VWAP, to me, that's the trade. So I'm just watching to see if we can pop back to the
Yeah.
VWAP there. I'm going to look to see what happens and potentially just get involved on a little bit of a bounce, but just not right to the tick, but got real close to that 50% mark that we always talked about. This is again what we're trying to do is can we observe these levels over and over and over again? If we can, then there's scalps to be had at these levels. It could be as simple as putting out the orders in advance and letting the trade work if it gets to that zone. So that's why we're very much focused on these levels. And so far,
BDRX, spike and BDRX. I'm the squawk out here. Keep going, Michael.
well, I was just saying we got an update. Oh, because yeah, we talked about your snap swing trade idea yesterday. I remember. So, oh, that's actually yeah. The fact that Snap is up today with the market, that I think, if anything, you should look at that and say I could be on to something with that swing because
Yeah.
relative strength, right? You don't have to be fancy with your relative strength metrics. Market's down, I think, almost 1%. It's not down nearly as much as it was. Yeah, down 0.88%. Snap's up. It's up just a little bit, but it's up. So it means that when they took everything to the woodshed, they left Snap alone. So that's very interesting that it's holding that zone. So for me, these are the days where a lot of what I'm doing and when I'm going through my portfolio at the end of the day is I'm going to look and I'm going to say, well, what's up? The things that were up today when the market's down, maybe I add to them, but I'm definitely going to keep them. Anything that got completely destroyed when the market was down, then it's okay. You're just moving with the market. You're not interesting to me, right? I want things that move different to the market. So yeah, if anything, I would look at that snap and say the fact that it is up from the open and again just right at the close here. That's great. And you can just measure the low. So if you look at yesterday's low, how far a snap is above yesterday's low, and then look at the SPY and look at yesterday's low and how the SPY is below yesterday's low. So when you're looking for relative strength, relative weakness, you don't got to be too fancy, right? You just got to, the market broke down today. Snap did not. Relative strength. So good work.
All right, XLO back above 130s here, guys. Thinking about getting in here, but of course, while Jerome Powell's on, it's going to be a little bit hard. But penny stocks don't care about Jerome Powell, so I just got to be careful here and maybe get a shot here. Just take a shot here, just based on the recovery, right? So that's where it gets hard sometimes. Sometimes we just got to think technically wise. This looks good. I'd have to risk off the 125 spot here, but I don't mind it at all here. The one thing also that's telling me is it's the highest relative volume in the market right now for me. So at least on my scanner here, and I think that's important for me here. I'm going to take the shot here. Long here, guys, 134 here, and I'll risk off the 125 spot. Look to see if I get the rip. So XLO long there, guys. Even though I'm short on Palantir, this is a little bit different style trade. And one thing I wanted to tell myself is when it came back to it, hey, it's okay to take the shot as long as the charts line up, right? So the 15 minutes looking decent there. I'll show you guys it right now. You'll hear some talking in the background. That's just the conference getting set up here. But you see that start to recover off that support, that 125 support. So now let's see if it can go back to the 150. It's washed out a lot of traders. Tons of volume here in the open, right? Like look at all that volume that's aligned in here, and the stock's moved to 20 cents. So let's see if it can break out above the 150 and make a move to 2.
Yeah, so just an update here. So on my Zillow, just holding, right? So a little bit of a pop there,
Yeah.
but we're still just holding. The miss of the day, and this is something that I need to maybe be a little bit more bolder to trade off the open, was that lift play. Talked about that right on this candle right here. Got pretty much to the 2-day VWAP and then fell off a little bit. So that would have been the perfect trade. Because again, what I'm trying to do, I'm never planning on trading, especially day trading, being the thing for me. I'm just trying to take little shots, right? If I can make a couple of bucks here or there by standing here a few minutes. SP 500 down to that VWAP, and currently on the 2-minute chart, 2 pretty big bottoming tails going on right here. So are we going to dig in at that VWAP? You see something there, Mitch?
Nothing yet, guys. Just a bunch of talking. Nothing yet. I'll switch over to it as soon as I get it, guys. As soon as I see anybody actually walk in. Jerome Powell's still not in. He's late. He's late, guys. He is late. The Uber was late, guys. It's all the Uber's fault.
Probably outside having a cigarette, saying, "Oh God, now I got to go and listen to all these political guys." It's so wild because for those who don't know, the Fed are supposed to be and actually I think do a pretty good job of being apolitical. You know, all of the Fed guys, they're a bunch of economist nerds, right? They went to all these,
Yeah.
spent 12 years in school studying economics and Keynesian theory, and right have a plaque of Adam Smith on their wall. They just want to do their little nerd stuff. They want to like do their models, and they want to talk about the economy. And then all of a sudden they get roped into all this politics stuff where he's got to listen to
Yeah.
this side yell at that side. He's just like, listen, I run models. I kind of predict whether I think this is I should buy stocks or I should buy bond securities or not to push the values up, and whether or not I should change interest rates. That's all I do. Like all this other stuff, you guys leave to yourself. So I think there's quite a bit of. I don't think. I think if you got a few beers into him, say, what do you think of when you have it? He's like, that's this to him. I bet you is the absolute worst part of
Guys,
the overall job.
I wish I could pull some footage right now. I don't have the time because I'm focused on the trading action. But I can tell you guys, I've been to Congress, I've been to Senate, I've been in the rooms, I've walked around, I've talked to these guys, I've tried to get them to answer questions on interviews. It is something else, man. I'll tell you one thing, guys. Bernie Sanders gave me the hand, man. That guy didn't even want to talk to me a second.
Oh no.
But that's when I got the chance to talk to our vice president, right? I got the chance to talk to him about cannabis, and he viewed it as something that needs to be worked on, right? Of course, and he compared it to kind of we are talking about Schedule 3 and would he support it. He said he pretty much needed to look deeper into it, but that of course he felt that cannabis shouldn't be on a level of like heroin or something like that. So I think those are all things to think about. I think it's fun, definitely, to talk to these members. That they should essentially be there to answer questions to us, right? That's what they're there for. But hey, here you go, guys. We're getting the conversation started here.
Quickly before we go there, we pulled right into that AVWEP from the CPI print, and then we've rocketed from there. And just while we're talking about it, we got a question here about VWAP and how to do the multiple day VWAPs. There, within TradingView, you can just look up multi-day VWAP, and you can see that in there. You can have Claude build something for you. He's actually really, really good at PineScript, just the AI. And then also you can just anchor them yourselves if you want. You can just click on the opening candle. This is TrendSpider, and just create a anchored VWAP. And then you can also go into right here, and you can just click on the little VWAP icon and you can draw it yourself. So a bunch of ways to do that. Most programs have multi-day VWAP, and then also you can just draw them yourself. Drawing them themselves is a little bit annoying if you're scanning through multiple symbols, but this VWAP right here that I'm talking about with the SP500, this is one that is not from a 2-day. This is from the CPI print. So the idea is the average price, which it's lining up to today's VWAP pretty well now anyway. But off the jump there was a little bit of a difference, saying from the CPI print what's going on. So let's go over to JPow, see if he's going to ruin everything today or not.
Let's get over to it, guys. I'm adding here, trying to add on Palantir, guys. I'm in the green here. We'll see what happens on that account. And here you guys have it. I'll put it a little louder.
Intent is to insulate the Federal Reserve's monetary policy from political influence. Unfortunately, in the
I don't
last
like
2.5
this
years
camera. I
of
might
the
have to
Biden
try to find a different
administration,
one for us.
the Fed took on serious
Yeah, let
liberties
me
with
try a
its
different one
independence
right
in
quick,
areas of
guys.
supervision. In law,
Hi, my name's Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Spies bleeding through that VWAP now.
All right,
So
guys, getting a little jump here. XLO. Let's go, XLO. Stay forget POW.
areas of supervision.
All right, I like this one better.
In law, Federal Vice Chair for Supervision is to develop policy recommendations that then are been brought to the Board of Governors for consideration. In my estimation, over the years, You and the board have been too
Let me know if that's too loud,
deferential
Michael. I know you
to
can
the
hear it better than I
statutory
can.
vice chairman for supervision.
No, so far I think it's perfect,
Chairman,
especially in relation to your
Vice Chair
voice. It's
Barr
good.
turned the Basel
All right,
III
I put him in the
endgame
corner
rulemaking
there,
into a
guys.
partisan affair,
Where they belong, in the corner behind the technical analysis, right?
making
Yes,
them
yes.
less competitive.
Right
The
behind
Fed
that,
has a
right?
chance right now to get back on the right track.
Oh, the
Intel.
right
Business
track.
independence, long-term benefit.
And
All right, guys,
TC.
got the ad there in
And with
Palantir.
that,
Going to hold
I
it
yield
tight
back.
here. Look for that quick down move. It needs to be quick,
Chair
quick.
recognizes Mr. Lucas, the chair of the Monetary Policy, Treasury Market Resilience, and Economic
SPY still
Prosperity.
flirting around that AVWAP, just trying to figure out direction. Quite often you'll see, geez, there's not even showed up for this. Look at all the empty chairs there. People will kind of stop trading a little bit and just wait to see. No one cares about what these guys are saying because, right, they don't have the effect. They're just looking for what Jay Powell's responses are and looking for, again, those keywords that we talked about yesterday. Is he going to talk about higher for longer or lowering quicker or just something out there that's going to give us some idea of a direction when it comes one way or another. Also, we got to pay attention too, because Anne Marie is coming on fairly soon, isn't she?
Yeah, 10:30 she'll be joining us. I did make a slight mistake there in the Palantir trade, guys. I accidentally covered. I'm frustrated about it. I covered there at 1482, and this is where I'm frustrated. So I don't want to just jump into trade, because if I grab it here and it comes back up, not the intended
Thank you
entry.
very much, Mr. Chairman.
It's just
and
difficult
thank
now,
you, ranking
guys.
member.
But I can
And
show
thank
you guys
Chairman
it.
Powell,
It was a
both
mistake.
for your years of
Close
public
right there.
service and for appearing before our committee
Right there,
today.
it closed at
As the ranking member of the newly
114.82, and I was trying to
formed
add another
Monetary
100
Policy,
shares and
Treasury,
hold off the
Market Resilience, and
115
Economic
rejection.
Prosperity Task Force. I look forward to working with Chairman Lucas and the rest of my colleagues to address these important issues. The research is clear. Independent central banks perform better in carrying out their mandates than politically motivated central banks. The independence of the Federal Reserve is crucial to achievement of this dual mandate goals to maintain both maximum employment and stable prices. And although this dual mandate has been criticized by some, it continues to serve Americans well. It has not prevented the Fed from making substantial progress on driving down inflation, all the while avoiding a recession, which many saw as inevitable. I look forward to your testimony, Chairman Powell, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. I'd like to turn to the gentleman from Michigan and yield to him for a point
Yield.
of personal privilege.
Forget the yielding, man.
Thank you, Chairman Hill. And as we all know,
Tesla's been on the downfall, man, and it wasn't a bad call on that one, man. I wish I would have had a swing trade short on that one. It's been an awesome call from the 400 breakdown.
Have done over the last 5 years. Although Nicole Vo is all of 29
I did see a nice article yesterday about Ford and how they're struggling with the new tariffs and things like that.
Physical stature, she was a force to be reckoned.
Yeah, I was reading. It might have been the same one, but they're just talking about the
this committee
fact that nobody knows what's going on is becoming increasingly difficult for them. Where right, 1 minute there's
100%.
tariffs, and then the next minute there's no tariffs, and they're trying to plan out the next couple quarters of purchasing and budgeting and things like that. And it's just becoming again increasingly difficult to do anything. My Zillow continues to chop. I'm thinking of implementing a time stop on these as well. So I'm going to look to potentially do that here on Zillow. Just it's back to the high end of the range, but not doing anything. So the SPY is digging in. Looks like it potentially could push higher while those guys are waffling on. I'll go back here, right? So we've dug in a little bit here on the SPY. We're back around that major VWAP. A lot of bottoming tails around here. So we'll see if we end up getting a push higher. And then if I just go to my Zillow, right, bought it right in through here, up a few bucks, if that, on it, and nothing's really happening. So just looking to see what's occurring there. Denny's, however, looks like it's breaking out. So I might take some Zillow money and I might go into the Denny's money.
Denny's, baby. Oh, clap it up, clap it up.
Mr. Chairman, we welcome your testimony. Chairman Powell, you'll be recognized for 5 minutes to give an oral presentation of your testimony. Without objection, your written statement will be made part of the record. You're now recognized for 5 minutes.
Uh-oh. He has
Chairman
5
Hill,
minutes, guys.
Ranking Member Waters, and other members of the committee. I
Here he
appreciate
is.
the opportunity to present the Federal Reserve's semi-annual monetary policy report.
There's a push in the market right there, guys. A quick
Federal
push
Reserve
as he
remains
comes on
squarely
here. Let's
focused
see
on
what
achieving
happens.
our dual mandate goals
They're
of
like, oh,
inflation
finally.
and price stability. Benefit
Finally,
Finally,
Jerome.
yeah, the guy we care about is saying
Overall,
things.
Man,
we've made
did you?
significant progress
This
toward
is
our
hard to
goals
talk about
over
when
the past
Jerome's
2
talking about,
years.
but did you see the? I saw the
Labor market
conversation of
conditions have
foreign
improved from their formerly
executives
overheated state
and
remain
officials
solid.
can now be bribed
Inflation
into
has moved
deals
much
under the
closer
Trump
to our 2%
administration.
longer run goal.
You like that
Crime
one,
is
Michael?
Elevated.
crime is legal. Why not? Let's have some crime.
Bribing? Yeah, no,
I
you
will
know,
review the
I mean,
current
how we get
economic
everything done,
situation
right?
before
Lobbying here in the United States. Well, let's just lobby everywhere else,
recent
right? I
indicators
mean,
suggest that
Yeah,
economic activity has
just do
continued
some crime. Why not?
pace. GDP rose
We'll see.
2.5%
But yeah, you're right. We're
in December.
bouncing.
We ask you to pull your
We're
mic.
bouncing. I'll just go quickly so I don't. Right. So again, that VWAP, just like we talked about, pulled into that VWAP, messed around it
oh,
for a
good
while,
Lord.
having a nice little bounce off. So we'll see what happens going in.
I'm going to have to pay
Good,
for
they were-
premium again.
They were onto my screen for that.
But was
I
solid
was
for
thinking
the
of
year.
doing that anyway because the kids watch a lot of stuff. So
Growing
maybe
weakness in the
we'll
middle of
use
last
mine
year,
if
the activity
I
in
end
the
up pulling the
housing
trigger.
seems to have stabilized.
All right, here he
In the
goes.
labor
He's
market,
giving some good
conditions
stuff
remain
now.
solid and appear to have stabilized. Payroll job gains averaged 189,000 per month over the
He's
past
talking about
4 months.
inflation.
Following earlier increases, the unemployment rate has been steady since the middle
We'll
of
go
last
back
year.
to
and
shorting
at
Palantir
4%
here.
in January remains low. Nominal wage growth has eased over the past year, and the jobs to workers gap has narrowed. Overall, a wide set of indicators suggests that conditions in
All
the
right,
labor market
short
are
there,
broadly
guys.
in balance.
Holding off the high of the day.
The labor market is not a source of significant inflationary pressures. The strong labor market conditions in recent years have helped narrow long-standing disparities in employment and earnings across demographic groups. Inflation has eased significantly over the past 2 years, but remains somewhat elevated relative to our 2% longer run goal. Total PCE prices rose 2.6% over the 12 months ending in December, and excluding the volatile food and energy categories, core PCE prices rose 2.8%.
Here comes the
Longer-term
inflation talk.
expectations appear to remain well anchored, as reflected in a broad range of surveys of households, businesses, and forecasters.
Oh, that's a good one.
Measures
Saying
from
that he's okay with inflation as is.
Well
our
anchored.
monetary policy actions are guided by our dual mandate.
The
to
algos
promote
picked it up
maximum
real quick.
employment and stable
Yeah.
prices for the American people. Since last September, the FOMC lowered the policy rate by a full percentage point from
A
its peak,
full
after
percentage
having
point.
maintained the target range for the federal funds rate at 5.25% to 5.5% for 14 months. That recalibration of our policy stance was appropriate in light of progress on inflation and the cooling in the labor market. Meanwhile, we've continued to reduce our securities holdings. With our policy stance now significantly less restrictive than it had been and the economy remaining strong, we do not need to be in a hurry to adjust our policy stance. We know that reducing policy restraint too fast or too
Dun,
much
dun,
can hinder
dun.
progress on inflation. At the same time, reducing policy restraint too slowly or too little could unduly
Go.
weaken economic activity and employment.
Let's go, Palantir.
In considering the extent and timing of additional adjustments to the target range for the federal funds rate, the FOMC will assess incoming data, the evolving outlook, and the balance of risks. As the economy evolves, we will adjust our policy stance in a manner that best promotes our maximum
There we
employment
go,
and
looking
price
good in
stability
Palantir
goals.
now.
If the economy remains strong and inflation does not continue to move sustainably toward 2%, we can maintain policy restraint for longer. If the labor market were to weaken unexpectedly, or if inflation were to fall more quickly than anticipated, we can ease policy accordingly. We are attentive to the risks to both sides of our dual mandate, and policy is well positioned to deal with the risks and uncertainties that we face. This year, we're conducting our second periodic review of our monetary policy strategy, tools, and communications, the framework used to pursue our congressionally assigned goals.
Microsoft
The
doing
focus of
pretty
this
well on the
review was
bounce
on
back.
FOMC's statement on longer run goals and monetary policy strategy, which articulates the committee's approach to monetary policy, and on the committee's policy communications tools. The committee's 2% longer run inflation goal will be retained and will not be a focus of the review. Our review will include outreach and public events involving a wide range of parties, including Fed Listens events around the country and a research conference in May. We will take on board the lessons of the last 5 years and adapt our approach where appropriate to best serve the American people to whom we are accountable. We intend to wrap up the review by late summer. Let me conclude by emphasizing that at the Fed, we'll do everything we can to achieve the dual mandate goals Congress set for monetary policy. We remain committed to supporting maximum employment, bringing inflation sustainably to our 2% goal, and keeping longer-term inflation expectations well anchored. Our success in delivering on these goals matters to all Americans. We understand that our actions affect communities, families, and businesses across the country. Everything we do is in service to our public mission. Thank you, and I look forward to our questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chairman yields back. I want to recognize the ranking member of the full committee, Mrs. Waters from California, for a 4-minute opening statement.
Mrs. Waters.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, Chair Powell, to
Everyone loves her.
our country. Is on the
All right, guys,
precipice of
about to get stopped out in
economic
Palantir. It's going
disaster
through the
unlike
high of the day. It could just be a wick
anything
here,
we've
but
seen
I'm
in
ready to get
recent
stopped out,
memory.
guys.
While Trump
Stop
promised
is
lower
set there.
prices
I'll let you
for
guys know if I
working
get
class
hit here.
families, we're seeing
S&P 500 is trying to
prices
break back
rise
through the high of the day after that little pullback to VWAP. Just
40%,
kissed VWAP and away we go.
than they were even a year ago.
I'm such a
In my home
proponent.
state of
Maybe it's just the
California,
young guy in
we're
me,
seeing
but
eggs
get
as
out
high
all
as
these
$9
boomers,
and
man.
more per dozen.
All these old
Inflation is
people that
rising.
could barely
It is
even
up to
speak
3%
anymore,
for the
man.
first time.
Well, there's an
And
age limit to the downside, right? You've got to be over
Peoples
X
are about to
X
get
amount to
this as
Yeah,
run. There should be an
dude,
age
come
limit to the
on,
upside
man.
too.
taxes on
The most
state
interesting way that I've heard of doing it is you take the life
American
expectancy of your
consumers
country and you
is
subtract like 30
such
years. And you got to be out of office by then. It's like you got to live in this place that you've made for 30
Yeah,
years.
man.
President Elon Musk
right.
was taking a sledgehammer to our economy. and
Oh, or
democracy.
taking a
In recent
sledgehammer to our
days, They
economy.
attempted to illegally kill the
By
consumer
just continuing to mess around here, right? It's
agency created
And
at
what it gets
today's
me,
highs.
of
what gets me more is the
2008.
prepared remarks,
its
right? So this is
inception,
just literally
TTP
like someone else
successfully
wrote this
fought
for her.
on behalf
She
of
didn't even
working
write
class
this probably.
families against
That's my
abusive
annoying
Oh, yeah.
part.
feds
That's my
and
annoyed part,
predatory
right? Is
lenders,
that
and
you
not
can
to
tell the
mention
way that she's
returned
reading, the way
$21
that it's
billion
worded.
back to
It's not a
families
normal
who were
person speaking.
swindled. Chair
Yeah,
Powell,
there's
you
some.
explained yesterday
Oh,
that
there we go.
these shutdowns
Broken through highs here on the SP 500.
bigger
But yeah,
than
you're right. There's some intern out there that ended
consumer needs at all.
up doing all this work.
In the face of
Um,
these illegal, cruel,
Yeah,
and
these guys run
relentless
with
attacks
interns. I can
to
tell you
again,
guys because I've been
it
there.
is both urgent and critical
They
that
have
we
like 3 or 4
immediately
interns.
convene
And
a
what are they
royal
promised?
overdue
Oh, you
hearing
could
of
potentially be in my
CFPB
seat
Acting
one day.
Director Bart, members of Congress, and
don't know
importantly,
why you'd want
the
to. You
American
couldn't.
public
You'd have to
as
pay me
to why much
Yeah,
so
you can-
much money.
Yeah, you couldn't pay me
millions
to.
are in
You
possession
couldn't pay me to
of
cover them, let
sensitive
alone do it.
consumer
Yeah.
information and what they are doing with it. Additionally, Trump is simultaneously
Oh, good
threatening
lord! I can barely
import
even hear
taxes
her.
on U.S. companies that will increase the cost of groceries and other basic supplies for all. Trump is freezing funds for housing assistance and community development and whittling down the federal workforce so that his billionaire boys club can suck any of these workers' salaries into their own pockets. This is all part of Trump's Project 25 playbook. You know what else he's taken from Project 25?
Like, yeah, J-Pow's sitting there listening to this saying, like, yeah, I just want to debate Keynesian
I just
economics
wanna
with my
talk-
nerd bud.
I just want to talk monetary policy. Why are you bringing up fiscal policy?
Yeah,
Right?
I don't have
Like-
anything to do with any of this, lady.
I
Like,
cannot do
In fact,
anything
his
of that,
co-president Musk
Mrs.
attacked
Waters.
Fed
Like,
independence
I don't
in
know
a
what to
tweet
tell you.
earlier
It's
this
like
year.
it's like when a
Bob,
basketball player
I
gets
know
asked,
you
"How
have
did you
been
get out
adamant
rebound?"
about the independence of the Fed
Well,
and
the other
have
team grabbed
thus
the ball
far
when
resisted
it came off
pressure
the rim.
from Trump
They brought it down.
administration to eliminate DEI.
yeah, once
Following
I
Trump's
just yeah,
broader
he's like, I got 2 levers.
Trump
Right?
has
You guys
more
gave me 2
influence
levers to
on
pull,
than
and I
you
do
let
my
on.
numbers,
I
and
speak
then I
for
pull the
all my
levers.
colleagues on the Democratic side when I say that you
See
must
what's going on.
stand firm in
Interesting
defending
candle there on the SPY. We wicked through that
Yeah.
50% mark, and then
and
kind of
his
pop
vote.
back down. So just
Remember,
kind of a little more
vote
choppiness
by
going on here
Oh
participating in
yeah.
the system
when it comes to the
together
market.
and speak forcefully
I'm
about
taking a
what's at
shot in
stake for our
Palantir as it comes
economy.
back to my
The
break
American
even
public
here, but I'm
must
not
hear
adding
from
just
you,
yet. I'm
our
waiting for it to
central
get
bank,
back below
today.
115. I think that's a big spot on Palantir right now.
Gentlewoman yields back. I
Oh,
yield
she yields
myself,
back. What did she
5
talk
minutes
about?
for questions. Thank you again, Chairman Powell, for being with us. Let me start with the Fed's bank regulation and supervisory function. As I mentioned in my opening statement, over the past 2.5 years, the outgoing Vice Chair for Supervision has pushed new regulations that would move the United States towards a one-size-fits-all approach to prudential regulation that disregards the congressional mandate that's been quite clearly established for regulators to tailor bank regulation based on an institution's size, complexity, and risk profile. Earlier this year, the Fed board announced that Michael Barr would be stepping down from his position as vice chair on February 28th,
So I just
2025.
got pinged out of my Zillow right
Professor
there. So
firm.
that's
Additionally, the board
one
also
trade,
announced at that time
slightly
that it
profitable today. So I'll just do that quick, right? So again, the idea was buying this through VWAP. We messed around for a while here, and then we came up, and it looked like we were struggling with these 4 or 5 candles. So just trying to play tighter. This is actually something that I've been learning watching
vice
Mitch.
chair for supervision. Do you
What
agree
I'm
with
trying to do is more like
governor's
how I would
measures
trade
of
my own account,
responsibility
where I
for
would
supervision
put out a bunch of orders, just let them work all day.
I do.
When it comes
and I would
to
also agree
what
that we
we're
need
doing
to
here at
start
Trade the Pool, just trying to be a little
regulatory
faster with things, a
duty.
little quicker.
We talked about the holiday, and we will proceed with the things that we should be
All
proceeding.
right, just added now,
You
guys. Taking a
testified in
bigger
the
shot here
Senate
for sure.
yesterday,
Taking a
and
shot. Taking
know
a
you
shot.
enjoyed
Palantir.
time with the senators, and you talked a little bit about
Also still
Basel
long
III
XLO on
endgame.
the small account,
And
guys.
again, in my opening statement, I talked about that the intent was to harmonize those rules, true for the largest institutions in
Being
the
a test in
world,
Palantir here.
but also do that in a way that's capital neutral. And many of us here in Congress on both sides of the aisle felt like Vice Chairman Barr's approach was gold plating already high standards for American banks. You testified yesterday that you think bank capital levels are about right for those large institutions. Would you tell the committee today that it's your intent to repropose a Basel III endgame approach, just speaking on behalf of the Fed only, not the other
I'm
supervisors?
telling you, they're so
and that it
focused on
be,
the bank's
take
regulation
into
going to
account the
zero.
comments, and that it
This
be
is the one thing
fully
that I'll tell
capital
you right
neutral.
now. Like, yeah, my trading matters
do
to me,
intend
all
to
that.
repropose
There's a reason
Basel
why
III
I'm talking
endgame,
about it often.
and we
It's
intend to do
important,
that
guys.
just as soon as we can get
Deregulation is the number one thing that can
banking
cause
agencies,
growth. It can,
and,
yes,
as I mentioned,
definitely
I
cause
think we can
safety
do that
concerns
pretty
in the
promptly
long run,
once those
right, to the
people are in
system,
place. I look
but
forward
it
to doing
can
that.
cause growth.
My long-held
That's
view,
what you're
as I said
seeing
in many of these
everywhere.
hearings, is that capital in the banking
Yeah,
system
that's
largest
the
is
underlying focus, and one of the main reasons that when Trump was elected, we had just the big pop that happened is that people are just saying, okay, if we're going to
agencies
deregulate
I think that's
essentially
important.
means
I
that
think
we
it
are
needs to
going
be
to
coordinated and harmonized among
um,
your supervisory
you know,
agencies. I do
we
want
can
to
we
take
can
it
play a little bit harder, right? We can have a
Basel
little bit
III
more fun
endgame
in the
proposal
overall
interaction.
in what's going on in the market. But Jay Pout doesn't. He has to follow the laws that Congress puts into place. So it doesn't really make sense to me um, why they're asking him about it. It's like, you guys make the laws, just right,
Yeah.
make whatever laws you guys want, and we'll follow them. So. Yeah,
All
just
right, we'll
more
see
of
what
this.
happens here, guys. It's a lot of back and forth, but still holding in the range. I think it's a good sign, right? I was looking for quick moves down. That hasn't happened. All right, guys, I'm going to take Jay Powell down here, guys. We're going to go ahead and get into our interview. We'll talk about the situations that are going on right now. And if you guys have any stock or anything, an area, sector you guys want to ask, don't forget to ask some questions. Like always, guys, we'll still be trading in the background. I'll let you guys know if I do see anything happen in certain stocks that I'm in. Of course, I'm still in Palantir short. Long on a smaller play XLO. We'll see what happens with that one. Needs to hold around the 125 mark. Still waiting to see the volume come back into that. All right, guys, that's going to do it for that outlook. Let's go ahead and let's bring on our trader interview today, guys. Of course, on a day where the market is chaotic, I think there's really no one better than our guest today. Let's go ahead. Let's bring on Anne-Marie Ban. If you guys don't know her, well, you better start getting to know her. How we doing, Ann?
I'm great. I'm excited to be with you guys today.
Definitely on a day like today, you can probably calm us down a little bit and bring down the overreaction, as of course CPI coming in hot, and you see the red light in the back. It's usually a blue light, but on a day like today, I'm definitely a little bit on alert. What are you seeing out there? What was your first reaction when you saw a hotter print on the CPI?
So my favorite thing to do is look at how the traders are reacting. So I went to the futures market and I saw that in this really buy the dip scenario, if we look at the daily charts, every savage wick down, especially in pre-market action, gives us an inventory correction. And so if you're not familiar with the term inventory correction, overnight or prior to the open, traders begin to position and they look for those big moves. And once the big move comes into an area of prior support or prior demand, they flip. And so that's called an inventory correction. So I was looking to immediately go long. Since I'm a mean reversion trader, I know, say a prayer for me, because that's a rough part. Yeah, reversion traders.
It's better than the bears going singing in the street, as Michael would probably say
Yes,
here.
exactly. The perma bears.
Yeah. So I always look for inventory correction, and you can do this with any stock at any time. And what you really want to do is when it comes down to those deep levels of support that you see either on prior days where it's heavy congestion or prior days where you can see demand showing up, and that means there are no bottom wicks. It means everybody's coming in and saying, hey, I'll buy that. That's where you want to look for something called structure, or I like to call it structure. And what it means is you'll see traders start trying to buy those lows. And the next 1 or 2 minute candle will open higher than the last one closed or come down into a higher level of support. And so as soon as I saw that happening on the 1 minute, I was in. And so it's been a good morning for me. Yeah, put that up so the folks can see that on a 1 minute. Absolutely love it. You can see the traders, they flush the low. And so this also happens. Let's say that's exactly right. People will come in and they'll go, ooh, it's opening higher. I'm going long. But that's the first trap. So the first trap says, hey, I know you guys are going to be all hot and heavy to go long. I'm going to blow your stops out. And so we watch for that second or third flush. And then we go, all right, can I hold that now? And so the second flush either has to break above the low of the news candle and close above there, or we really still don't have a trade. So the trade really doesn't open up until we hit that 600 mark. And then that's all she wrote. And beautifully, folks, you can see this on any chart that's got high volume. It will be a beautiful trading mechanic for you to use over and over again.
So that's kind of, I guess you could say, Head and Shoulders-esque in a way, right? So you're taking something that's, you know, you're saying here's the dip where they get people in, and then if they can hold at a higher price. And also it reminds me too, as someone who just studies a lot of people's trading strategies, that Linda Ratchke has a same strategy with MACD with this. So what are you using for your actual like entry? Like now's the time to hit the button. Is it kind of just feels like we're holding that low, just pure price?
Pure price. Yeah, I'll look at that moving average. I'll look at the lows and I'll go, who's buying there? And the second I see those wicks coming in, I go, all right, that's going to be my move. Now, if you're looking at that MACD, which you just minimized there, you'll see it starts to rise, right? But although it's rising, price is still dipping. And so what it's telling you is the traders are coming in, but they're weak hands. And so they're going to get shaken out very, very quickly. And so one of my favorite traders to watch is a futures trader called VWAP Trader. And he's on, his name is JJ. And he calls it the look below and fail. So price action looks below and they fail to hold below. And that says, if they try to look below and fail below, I've got myself a buying opportunity. It's so beautiful and it's so clean because it tells you exactly what the price action is telling you that traders are going to do. So yeah, it's been a good morning.
I like it. I refer to this as my rule of 3. And I call it because I'm looking for 3 attempts of the washout. And then on that 4th move, I want to see a fake out. I want to see it try to fake people out on the downside. And so one thing that I would say this is more attained to is not only necessarily more of a technical look, but a psychology look into the intraday action, right? There's more the psychology of that plays into traders, that drives their emotions. And then you're essentially playing off of that emotion.
Exactly.
Where are they trapped? Is that the main goal? You're saying?
Exactly. Yes. Yes. So all the shorts get trapped thinking that there's going to be more downside. And as soon as it breaks above, all those stops start getting run. And so the combination of people buying the dip and sellers going, I got to head to the fire escape.
Yeah.
We got ourselves a trade.
I love that. Love that mentality there. And I think that's definitely something that can continuously work. We did get a question in the chat, of course, that you can't drop a name like that and them being like, no, I need to know this VWAP trader.
All right.
So you go ahead and just tell me the name again. I'll find it for you in the background. And then I'll let Michael drop a question here while I get it for us.
I think he's VWAP Trader 1 on
Okay.
On,
I'll try to find it. No worries. That's
Yeah,
all I need.
He has a gorilla as his face.
Oh yes, I know.
Yes.
We follow each other on
His name's
Twitter as well.
JJ. Yeah, his name's JJ. He is, man, you know, I gotta say, I watch a lot of traders, and because I'm an intraday futures trader, he is at the top of my list for a guy to follow, for a guy to watch.
Love it.
His approach is very straightforward. It's not any woo-woo when this.
All right, just to make sure before I give out someone else's profile here. Because I would be that guy right now.
Yes,
Come on,
VWAP Trader 1. Yeah, there
Come on, you Mitch. I got this. I got it. All right, guys. I'll put the link up right here in the chat for you guys. You guys could just click on it, give him a follow, but let him know where you guys heard his name mentioned.
That's right.
Let him know Anne-Marie's talking about it on Trade the Pool, of course, guys. So definitely take a look at that, guys. And I think it's important, right? I love psychology strategies for day trading. I think it's more important than even technical looks. I talk about it how in day trading, you need to be flip-floppy. You need to have that flip-floppy mentality, right? It's not so much like in swing trading where you can hold to more positions. So tell us a little bit more about that. I think it's a good question. What would you determine the difference, the major difference between that day trading game and swing trading game?
So that's a good question.
Because I think it's a big one. I think it's completely 2 different styles. I think
I think part of the reason that Mitch is asking too is because we're doing this show and I am an awful day trader and spend my whole time swing trading. And Mitch is mainly focused on the day trading aspect. So it'll be interesting to see your kind of take on what psychologically I think more important than anything makes those differences. Because when it comes to strategy, we know that trading is fractal in a way. So it's going to work on a lot of cases. But what makes someone psychologically more available to be a day trader versus that kind of longer term swing trading nature?
So you can't spend a lot of time overthinking if you're a day trader. You have to be a little.
I'm an overthinker.
Yeah, me too. Hence my tragedy of my early trading years. You just overthink everything.
Yeah.
And so the swing trader has a chance to really think through things for a lot longer. The day trader is much more reflexive, that says, all right, as soon as this happens, I find my risk and I'm off to the races. And excuse me, that's the day trader. For the swing trader, it's of course on a bigger time frame. And what we end up thinking about as a swing trader is, what is the bigger picture here? Where is big money getting involved? And where will my risk tell me that my long or short trade has been invalidated? And in a sense, that's also the same thing for a day trader, but the swing trader allows more flexibility in price. Oh, yes, it pulled back, but it still hasn't invalidated my trade.
Yeah.
And so that's something that's very common between both sets of traders. One happens on a quick speed event, and the other happens on a much slower speed event. So you can reflect, rethink, reestablish, and confirm what it is that you're thinking for swing trader. That's my estimation anyway.
Have you ever read Daniel Kahneman's
Oh yeah, Thinking Fast and Slow?
That's
Absolutely.
that's
One
what
of
I
my
always
favorite
point people
books.
to.
Yeah. I've read it probably 3 times, and several segments I've read several times because it made total sense to me. And it also allowed me to realize why I was having such a hard time day trading and then hanging on when I saw swift invalidation of what it was I was thinking. And it made me realize that I need to use a different kind of reflexive motion to day trade.
I think it's important. I think that one of the things that I used to do is I was looking into a lot of day trading strategies, right? And I used to trade different strategies like VWAP longs, VWAP shorts, right? Whether you call them the bounce or the fades, right? But what I started realizing more and more is what makes sense more is understanding where entries should be, where stops are.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's golden.
It is, and I have it literally right here written down to remind me and consistently. And I just got a recent funded account, and that was trading kind of small caps and penny stocks. And the biggest, those are, some would view that as the hardest trades in the markets, right? And I think the important part is on there is understanding that psychology, looking for the liquidity pool, right? The washout, and then the comeback, right? Because the truth is, yeah, the traders are getting washed out a lot of the times, and then the trades are going in the right direction. They have the trend picked, but they can't execute the trade. Why? Because of those liquidity pulls, the stop triggers, of course, because we all look at things technically and we want to have the answers. You guys said it too, Michael and Ann, that you guys overthink things. Why? I do it too. Why? Because we do things like this. We read books. And when we read books, they tell us what? Answers, right? And the truth is, in real life, there is no answer to this market,
exactly.
man. Nothing that we can get out of a book is going to give us the
nothing
100%
black and white.
answer. Yeah,
nothing black and white. You know, it's super interesting what you just said, and I really want to hone in there a little bit, because if you're trying a swift trading space, or you're looking to swing trade, but you really want to manage your risk, the one thing you have to really release is the fear of missing out. If you leave the fear of missing out and you go, okay, this chart's in an uptrend and it's in a steep uptrend, I'm going to put on something like an exponential 5 or whatever, some kind of tight moving average. If you would just give it a little time and go, you know, instead of jumping in here at the high or the open of this new candle, I'm going to choose the half back of my prior candle. I'm going to let it come in 50%, and I'm going to try my entry there. Listen, if it races away from you, here's the fantastic thing about the market. It's a buffet. It's
Mhm.
going to come around again, and you're going to
Mhm.
have fresh food on the next cycle.
Yep.
So, don't chase the old green beans or the dried up fried chicken or whatever else happens to be on that buffet, which really, remember, the goal of a market is to facilitate trade. So your job is actually to position yourself where the market comes to facilitate that trade. And that's very often at stops that weak hands position themselves in.
I think that's very vital, guys. I think you guys are getting the straight gold here. And I think the important part is understanding there that it definitely has to do with more of that psychology look. And if you're trying to stay to one outlook, this is why I feel like a lot of times, yeah, there is no one answer. There is no answer to day trading. The only thing that I can teach, and I try to do it on a daily basis, is how you deal with the emotions and looking into the psychology of trades, right? And then I think it's very important to understand sector and industry outlook
Yeah.
to try to catch what I call industry-wide moves, sector-wide moves. So
Yeah.
I'd ask you, Anne, is there any sector or industry that you're seeing a little bit stronger than others? Because I think these types of trends can give us at least a higher mathematical probability of falling into the green.
So I like what financials are doing right now, but you got to let them breathe a little bit to come back in. We've got a lot of thin volume areas up there as it rises higher. I love the metals. I love all of them. But if I were to give a shout out to a group of ETFs, it would be the ones that are backed by the physical instrument. And so that's Sprott. That ETF group backs their ETFs with the physical instrument. And so those are going to be more reliable if the market shakes. So I do like, that's great. Yeah, that's super. I do like those. But remember, the big thing is to look at something and go, all right, if people were going to get nervous and sell off, where would I buy this? And it would be old support, or into new resistance. And so I would look for the breakouts and the gaps and say, all right, I'm going to watch it here. And maybe if I'm looking at it for a long-term hold, I'm going to say, I'm going to enter in tranches. I'm going to buy 100 shares if I see a savage fade. Oh, it feels always terrible to buy there. Well, if you're buying to hold, that's where you're going to get your best bet, right? It's going to give you your lowest risk if you're wrong and your highest reward if you're right. And managing risk is the number one thing every trader has to do. If you don't manage risk, you're going to run out of your funding opportunities.
Yeah.
Simple
Strike
as
one,
it
strike
is.
three.
So you mentioned entering in parts
Yeah.
there. Do you do the same thing on your exit, or is it just, and then is it more of a, I'm going to start take profits if I'm correct on the way up, or is it, this is the price I want to get to and I'm going to nail out, or is it like trailing stops? Like how do you define? Because for me, that's, I'd say with trading, anything that I do that I haven't systematized, exits is my hardest part. I am the greediest trader in the world, where if I have a winner, I never want to let it go all the way to the point. And I think it's just, I've got this whole let winners run in my head so much that I've been, with these challenge accounts that we're trading, I've been so close to passing every time, but I'm just holding on to the winners for that one. So just tips on how to manage that and when to get out of those positions.
That's a great question. So the answer is, it depends on what you're looking for. So let's say I'm an intraday trader or I'm a short-term swing trader and I'm looking for a big run into a particular move. So let's put up Palantir. You just talked about it. And
nothing like the stock I got stopped out in.
yeah. This one
Let's go.
this one is tough. I expected it to
Yeah.
lose 110,
Yeah.
but it's really bounced off of that line. So
Oof, that's for
let's
sure.
say let's say you're in the trade and you're looking for a place to go. All right, what's an area that I need to trim gains on? And here it is. So right there, you can see the gap up in Palantir, that great big green candle to the left.
Mhm.
After the breakout, it's the big one on the top of the band. And so if you draw a box straight across that, you'll notice the last 4 days, it came right to the top of that box, tried to get below it, but the buyer said, well, thank you for giving me that opportunity. I'm going to head in. So when you're a trader and you've got enough size to move around the position, the first time it drops into that area, you have to take a little bit of profit if you're long. That is a long trending formation. You take a long. Notice when it breaks up to a new high, it immediately gives us a selling tail. And so my thought is, if I get to the bottom of that wick to the left, I'm going to cover. So I'm going to give up some of my gains, but also it keeps me in line. The further wick, the last wick down in the box. Yeah, not that one. The what day would that be? Further. Yeah,
There.
those
Right
two
here on the
wicks.
10th.
The
Yeah.
stop would be under that low.
And
Right?
is that a hard stop, or is that
That's
based
a
off the
hard
closing?
stop. That is a hard stop. It
Yeah.
comes into the area, automatically liquidate.
Mhm.
Listen, you can always get back in. You
Yes.
can always get back in. And
Yes.
so if it holds you, that defines the first ability for traders to hold that area. Now, for
Yeah.
me, I'm looking at that 118 zone and I'm saying, if you guys can't get up over that edge, I'm going to raise my stop or I'm going to take some profit. What do I normally do? I normally just take some profit. I don't like raising my stop because it's already been established. And chances are the reflexive motion over there on the left is going to bring in buyers again. But right here at the top, if it doesn't close over this line into 4 o'clock before the day closes, I'm taking profit because I think it's in a sideways patch and it can easily come down into, that 110 area and
Yeah.
bounce again. So that's what I'm looking for, to add back to the position, trading around the position, as it were, into getting into that space.
I love it because I do think that's the hardest part of trading is just, you can come up with rules pretty simple to say, I'm going to buy, high day breaks, or I'm going to buy, those kind of scoop and scores, or the undercut and rallies, or bear traps, or whatever we end up calling them. But yeah, I think the wisdom on the exits, I think, is the most important for a lot.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's hard for all of us because what we want to do is hold out for the big wins so we can buy our island. But
yeah, that's my problem right there.
yeah, but the thing is, and I heard a great interview with this. Listen to this guy. He's been trading for 40 years. He's a mathematician out of some northern Ivy League school. And he's one of their tenured professors. He's been trading for 40 years. Naked calls and puts in the oil futures.
Ooh, dangerous
Right?
life. Yeah.
He's not had.
Does he have a Saudi friend?
No, listen. He's not had a down week in 4 years.
Wow.
Those are the guys that I definitely got to give it up to them.
Guess what he said his secret sauce is?
What's the sauce? What's the sauce that end up the interview today?
Small size, close to the strike, and then so you collect the most premium, and if it gets out, you cover. And so how do we turn that around into the trading space? We remember this: small size over and over again, way better than big size once.
Yeah.
Because big size once means you
Wisdom
throw
right there.
all the eggs in the
Yeah.
in one basket, and you can either blow up or shoot the moon. Well, guess
Mhm.
what? That's 50-50.
Yeah.
Instead, small size, continually in the space. He makes 150 trades a year, 3 a week, and that's what keeps him in that space. But it's always small size, in and out, small size, over and
Yeah.
over again. For some of us that trade or are thinking about our lives as investors, we go, oh my goodness, that sounds like such a lot of work. Well, yeah, it is more work than just clicking buy and then shutting your portfolio down and coming back and visiting it 90 days later. But the hard work of realizing don't swing big, swing small, but swing often
Yep.
in the right areas that you've set up as your edge. And that's going to keep you in the race for the long haul. And you get to end up with all your goals instead of riding these giant peaks and valleys,
Yeah.
you know, being on the floor with a bottle of your favorite beverage or, you know, shooting the moon,
Yeah.
whichever one. You
Yeah.
really have to bring yourself to a space where you go, you know what, small size, often in the areas that suit my edge.
100%. Couldn't say it better, guys. And definitely hope you guys enjoyed this interview. Check it out and learn more from Anne-Marie Band. Of course, I threw up the links there for you guys to go ahead and give her a follow on X. And of course, check out thetradingbook.com, guys. It's always good to have you on, Anne-Marie Band. Hey, well, we'll look forward to have you back. I appreciate you
Would
coming
love
down
it.
and
I
calming
love
us
the
down.
both of you guys so much. I
Yeah,
do.
chilling
You
us
guys
out
are-
a little bit's always great. No,
Yeah, you guys are just big
Hey,
fans. I'm big fans. I'm happy
one
to
of the
spend
things I
time.
always say is real finds real, and you guys keep working hard. I
Yeah.
always appreciate you guys all out there, our audience, but definitely check out Anne-Marie, man. I've learned a lot, and I've enjoyed having her on almost every single time. Get some insightful insight, a little tidbit, and that's what I love. You can always see her working on her craft and going on many
Always.
different shows, guys. So definitely check it out. And they're already asking for you back. So hey,
You're
I'm
not even
here.
gone. They're already
Anything
missing
for
you.
you guys. I'm
have a
here
good
for you
one.
guys.
Take care,
All
Ann.
right.
Have a
Take
good
care,
rest of your day.
everybody. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
All right, guys, that's gonna do it for us today, guys.
This is
It's
so
about
awesome.
to be 11. I told you guys I was gonna find it hard to wrap it up in even 30 minutes. I think Michael and I could chat with Ann all day long about
Absolutely.
trading.
Absolutely.
But I hope you guys enjoyed that, and please hit the comments. Let us know about how you guys enjoyed that, because that's what's going to get us to get more and more traders. So you guys tuning in right now, they got those tidbits. Hit the comments after the show. Hit us up on X, whichever method you prefer. But let us know about the interview and what you guys like and what do you guys want to see more of. Because right here, we're going to keep giving it to you guys.
Well, yeah.
All
and
right.
The thing
Go
that
ahead,
I
Michael.
love just quickly is that we're bringing on people, and everyone's going to have their own way of doing this, of trading this, of thinking about it. And then what's going to happen with you guys that are watching it is you're going to find one of those that's really going to hammer it home and say, that was amazing. I want to think more like this. I'm already interested on looking for her breaking the high or breaking the low and then rebounding, that kind of head and shoulders look. I've got a lot of work to do just from that. I may be moving my strategy over again and trying something new, just because that really, really spoke to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it did. It did. It was a interesting conversation there. And I like how she's essentially, like you said, it's an inverse head and shoulders. It could be the rule of three that I'm looking at. You guys heard from Steve yesterday mention more of like threes and fours. There's a reason why, guys. We're seeing patterns.
Yeah.
And we're like, the mind, when you're around trading so much, you'll start to literally see it. And then you probably might not even grasp the full knowledge just yet of what you have underneath, right? So take some of these tidbits, go look into the market, see if these are working for you. I'll go back to the quote that is really kind of helping right now, the talk that's expanding it. Entries where stops would be. think about that and how you can maybe play that into your trading. Like always, it's good to have you, Michael, and thank you for keeping us honest today on the market as the market continues higher, but we'll see what happens, what comes in the afternoon. One thing that I'm seeing is the VIX setting up with that same strategy that she just talked about here. So we'll see what happens with this one. You guys can see what? 1, 2, 3. Will we get the reversal? Wait and find out. There's only one way, guys. All right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Like always, catch us tomorrow. We'll keep trading. We'll keep looking into the market. You guys can always reach out to Michael Noss or I on Twitter. Like always, if you guys have any other questions, I hope you guys enjoyed the action today. Smash the like, and we'll be back tomorrow, man. What a great show today. Nothing like it with Anne-Marie Band. And definitely, if you guys didn't do us a favor, give her a follow because it shows her also how you guys appreciate having her on and having more guests. We'll keep pushing for you guys. You guys push for us. We'll see you guys back tomorrow.